Plato said that when you go to chemist school, you became more alert. You may wake up, your spirit wake up. And you became a more human being. That's your character is built in a school. We must know Netcher. You see, maybe in the future we need to know some Meroitic too. We need to know Netcher.
Hotep, hotep, hotep. Hopefully I could be heard. That means peace. You are tuned into the Sesh channel. This is your brother Wujao Medew Etymology. And before I even continue to talk, I just want to have a confirmation from anyone in the chat that I can be heard, if you all can hear me. If someone can do me that quick service and let me know that I could be heard in the chat. All right. But shout out to everyone who's tuned in. Again, this is another one of those drive-bys out of the clear blue sky live streams, you know. Don't really pre-plan these too much, although we do have some that we will pre-plan and give people advance notice on presentations. But if you all have been tuning in the past month or so, you know that this is normal. This is new normal for what we do here. All right. So that's why I say you have to subscribe. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell and make sure you click on all notifications. So at least you'll be alerted to when we go live. If you have time, you know, come hang out. If you don't, then check out the archive. But everything that we do here, our intention is to share something that you can walk away from edified. You know, our aim is to edify everyone, put something on your mind, you know, make you think critically, you know, question or do further research on. Even if you don't like what's being said, that still will force you to do some research, because if you don't like it, then obviously you're going to go looking for something to push back or say something against. And, you know, I personally have no problem with that. You know, I dare people to do that. Because one, it causes people to investigate and research more, and it's not about any one particular person winning anything. It's about all of us winning, and all of us getting closer to the truth, accuracy, and reality. That's it. That's the aim. That's the goal. All egos should be aside and all that kind of stuff. So if you know, any one of us can make mistakes, and if we make a mistake, we should be corrected, because the goal is correct information. All right. That's the only thing that's going to really help us. But all right. So shout out to everybody in the chat. I'm just going to do a quick roll call from who I can see typed up in the chat. So shout out to Debunking. I think that's the first person I see in the chat. Sundiata, Hotep, Sister Mika, Hotep. Donnie Williams is in the house. Jelanda, Hotep. Mark White, Teddy Wasurmat Ras and Neferu, Hotep. Aaron Edwards, Hotep. We got Morpheus in the house. Fritz is in the house, Hotep. And from West Africa, Hotep. So make sure y'all share this video. This is gonna be I'm gonna try to make this as quick as I can. You know, I say that, and you know, y'all know me. My quick videos end up being 2 hours, but I'm really gonna try to make this quick. So the topic for this stream is zombie topics, and then also correcting Chief X again. All right, so I feel responsible, you know, to step in and correct Chief X again on one of his latest video. I don't know if it's his latest video, his last one, but I know it was one that he made day before yesterday or yesterday. But we're gonna get into that, and I'm gonna go step by step and correct Chief X. And I hope Chief X is watching or will watch it. I'm sure he'll get around to it if he's not watching now, because Chief X is on the West Coast, a 3-hour difference. So he's probably out and about doing something. So, but you know, I don't, you know, I'm not disrespecting the brother or anything like that. Just correcting some information. I use him as teaching moments, and I feel responsible for this one definitely because he's misrepresenting some things I said. All right, and we're gonna get into that. But actually, before I actually move forward and get into anything, let me ask myself where are my manners and introducing my co-panelist, Sanet Imikat Aku Kenshaya Akinyi.
Hotepu Abai. I am just here on the panel and just looking forward to hearing this conversation. I haven't heard so much what is going on with you know, your favorite Facebook, YouTube grandpa messing up the scholarship, Chief X. So I'm actually looking forward to this. But yeah, so welcome everybody, and please share the video because I know there's probably going to be some good learning moments on this video. So please share the video widely so other people who might not be aware of, you know, that kind of information that, you know, that is correct or that is that is false, they might also get to benefit from this video as well. So please like and share the video.
All right, so I want to jump right into it. Like I said, I want to do my best to keep this as short as possible, and some things you may not know, and you know, we're gonna walk through informing, you know, in my correcting Chief X. But the first thing I want to talk about is zombie topics. What do I mean by zombie topics? That's part of the topic of this video. And so I recently did a Facebook post. So I'm just going to share that. Let's see if I can get it up on the screen for you all. And can I? Yes. Okay, so this, oh, it was up there. All right, so you all should be able to see that. And I guess I need to make it bigger. Let me see if I can make it bigger because you all can't read that. Let's increase. Okay, now that's pretty big. All right, you all should be able to see that. Okay, so this is my Facebook page. So I did a Facebook post and talking about zombie topics. And I don't know if anybody's ever mentioned that before, so I'm not claiming to make up the title to zombie topics, but it definitely fits my sentiment, so I'm using it. All right, so I don't know if anybody else used it before, but that's just something that I thought about. And so anyway, now this is my latest topic, define, you know, given the etymology of the word retard and retarded. But before I go to that, let me go down to the zombie topics, just so you all know what I'm talking about. So, what is a zombie topic? What am I calling a zombie topic? Zombie topics are topics and ideas that refuse to die. It's just that simple, because that's what a zombie is. A zombie is a human being. You know, y'all watch Zombie Apocalypse. What is it? Nation Z or whatever, on Netflix or whatever. These zombie shows, and these human beings just refuse to die. And so a zombie topic is the same thing. These are topics that refuse to die. And I see it. I'm sure you all see this as well. I see a lot of those topics on social media where people will rehabilitate old topics that have been settled and have been already been discussed and fleshed out. But people who don't know any better will rehabilitate those topics and bring them up as if they're brand new. And this happens in cycles. And so this is what I'm calling zombie topics. And so one such topic is what's been going on for 2022 so far. Ever since the new year came about, people have been going hard on this topic of the race of the ancient Egyptians, if they're black or not, which spawned other side topics of super Sahara versus sub-Saharan Africans versus West African versus East African. Then the whole genetic conversation, DNA conversations come up and pop up and everything. So this has spawned a lot of attention, but it's all a zombie topic. And the people who keep reiterating and keep bringing them up, they're zombies. All right. Flat out like that. So this is what I mean by zombie topics. So I'm just giving y'all what I mean by that. All right. And so what I also did was I gave the etymology of the word retard and retarded. And so we could quickly read this. Actually, I posted it twice, but I added, because people don't like to read a lot. They want to see pictures. So I put a picture with it the second time I posted it. And, it's my Morpheus meme collection. And it says, what if I told you, because you know how Morpheus in the Matrix, he said, what if I told you? But anyway, that's where it's from. What if I told you arguing over the race of the ancient Egyptians is a retarded zombie topic? It is. Now, here's what retarded means, because I know people may, it may touch a few nerves if you say the word retarded and whatnot. But this is what retarded means. It simply means, and it's always meant this, it's just that we use it, it's been started to be used in a pejorative way as well, high school and stuff. You retarded, and whatnot, or whatever the case is. Or mentally handicapped people will be called retards or retarded, and then that's just not cool. But the word itself, it comes from late 15th century, retarding, and it meant to make slower, or keep back, hinder, or delay. And I can keep going. It's from the French, retarder. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing the French properly. To restrain, hold someone or something back, keep someone from doing something, come to a stop. So it's always about a hindrance, and comes from Latin retardare, which is make slow, delay, keep back, hinder. Related, retarded, because that's retarded, retarding. The intransitive sense of be delayed is from the 1640s, etc. So I explained the race of the ancient Egyptian is a retarded zombie topic. So now that we know what retarded means, it's a topic that keeps us back. It keeps hindering us. Everybody keeps talking about it, but nobody's making progress to know about the ancient Egyptian culture. Every single time I listen to these conversations and I chime in and participate in them, I ask people about something about the culture, and they can tell me nothing about the culture. And it gets bad because it gets to the point where people say, well, I don't even really care about the culture. Or, I don't really care about this stuff. This is not my thing. I just do this on, as a hobby, or even worse, I just do this just to be messy type of comments I get back. And that's just not cool. That's retarded. So anyway, the population of people known as the ancient Egyptians do not constitute a race of people. The ancient Egyptians are not a race of people. There's no race called ancient Egyptian. All right. Never was. And that's people just gonna have to understand that. And if anybody thinks otherwise, you really just need to pause, sit down for a while, meditate for about a month, and then come back to the conversation. Because the ancient Egyptians are not a race of people. And in fact, they were never a homogeneous group of people in terms of on the level of what people call race now, or even if people want to invoke DNA and genetics. They were not a single or homogeneous group of people in that regards. All right. So people need to understand that. Anyway, to go on, the ancient Egyptians are so defined on the basis of culture and not race nor DNA, as all population groups of history and antiquity have always been. All right. What defines a group of people is their culture, not their DNA. Nobody labeled people after taking a DNA test. In fact, the human genome was not mapped until 2003. Partially, and then fully in 2019. They had most of it mapped in 2003, but they completed it in 2019. So DNA could have never been the litmus in order to label people and group people. That was never done, and it's still not done. So because DNA is available and people are gung-ho about these ancestry test kits and stuff, people want to invoke DNA, not doing any studies in biological genetics or anything. They're not studied, but they want to invoke it just because they Google a few things. And that just has to stop. To keep going, it is a waste of time to spend over 50 years. Now, I put 50 years purposely. Spent over 50 years fussing over the race of the ancient Egyptians. People who continue to do that are missing the forest for the trees. And by forest, I mean the richness of the genius of the Egyptian culture for the trees, which is the fussing over the skin color and looks. People are fussing about whether the Egyptians were dark, light, white, purple, and how they look and whatnot. People are actually fussing over that stuff in 2022. And they're not tapping into the culture itself, the genius, and what was accomplished. Is there anything? Can we use it as a resource? Can we use anything from methods and things that was done in the past, whatever the case is? Nobody is looking into that who's doing all this fussing. And by doing it, it delays, slows, and halts progress. So I'm saying stop being retarded and stop making retarded people famous. Because people who do this are getting the attention. And if that floats your boat, so be it. But the consequence of that is retardation, stagnation. We are behind. When I say we, I mean whatever people envision the we versus the them and the they. People complain about that there are no, African American scholars, not enough African American scholars in these various different fields and things like that. But yet, among ourselves, we retard ourselves by talking over stupid topics that do not apply. Race does not apply to people of antiquity. It doesn't. That's a trivial thing. It's like, so what if we want to call them black, then what? If we want to call them people of color, then what? If we want to call them white, then what? It's like once you answer it, it's quick, it's over. Then what? So, and to back up, I put 50 years because another brother pointed this out again. Was that this conversation can be tracked back or popularized at least by Dr. Shekanta Diop and Dr. Theophilo Benga at the Cairo Symposium, the UNESCO Symposium of 1974. That's where we can kind of trigger this journey. And it's from that work and from that point in time that led up to that, and the event itself, the symposium itself, is what fast-tracked us on this course of this topic. And people have been arguing this ever since. And that has retarded us. Now, in the 1970s, Diop and Obenga and others pushed back on European scholars who were doing just as retarded things by applying race to the ancient Egyptians, but in their favor, saying the ancient Egyptians were Caucasian, Caucasoid, or they were white, or at least they were non-black, they were non-Africans and stuff. They even tried to take Egypt out of Africa. So our mistake was to use the same logic and tactic, but in reverse. Oh, the Egyptians are black and they're and you know, and be gung-ho and exaggerate those things by applying race to it, not solving the issue by removing race from the equation altogether. And that's where I stand. The race conversation of ancient Egyptians is retarded. I don't care who does it. I don't care if you're black or you consider yourself black, white, or if you claim in continents, Europe, Africa, America, Asia, doesn't matter. The entire conversation does not apply because culture is king and people were grouped based on culture. People were distinguished based on culture, period. Nobody can refute that. I don't care if you invoke DNA, you invoke race. Nobody was checking race cards before they declared that you are an ancient Egyptian in ancient Egyptian times. It was never about that. Anywhere, anyhow, anyway. For nobody. So we got to get over that. All right. So anyway, that's that. I just wanted to share that with y'all, what I mean by zombie topics, because, you know, my stance has been consistent and been very clear, and I'm making it very clear. And I'm going to say it again. Anybody who entertains the race conversation is acquiescing to the detriment of our progress. Okay? And the prevention of our progress is to make slower, keep back, as you see, hinder, or delay. And what is that? That is the word retarded. So we are retards in that regard because we're being slowed. We're slowing ourselves down. We're not making progress. Years and years and years, people are still talking about the same thing. Nobody has advanced in their understanding of ancient Egyptian culture. I know this for a fact because I test people all the time. They don't. And we're about to see right now. So now let me move on to Chief X. So that was that. I want to get that off my chest. So that's what zombie topics are. And if y'all could think of zombie topics, hey, by all means, I don't care. You could use it. Start listening to zombie topics, because that's exactly what they are. They refuse to die, and they're going to keep coming. You got to shoot it in the head, you know, just like the zombie shows. There's a way to get rid of them, but you got to be precise. Okay, so enough of that. All right. So now let's get into Chief X. All right. So actually, let me take a peep at the comments. See what's going on in the comments. If y'all are, y'all are having the cold conversations. All right. So listen, I want y'all to pay attention to this. Okay. So, all right. So I'm just going to jump into it. So Chief X made a video recently, and it was actually a video related to the brother Unk I take that back. The brother Bobby West, or Bobby Baltimore, because I think he retired the name Unc a while back, until further notice. So I don't know if he's using Unc again yet or not, but Bobby Baltimore and the brother Smash Rockwell, the Magi Archer, Jonathan Owens. All right. They did they apparently did a live stream themselves. It was Bobby West, Baltimore Bobby, and Smash. They did a stream addressing Chief X, I believe. It was about, this topic. And then Chief X did a video. And so I am addressing Chief X. And I feel responsible to it because he made reference to a video I did in the past. And he's mischaracterizing it and misusing it. So I just want to make sure that I set the record straight. All right. So let me get into it. So what I'm gonna do it in good old fashioned Seshu style. Is I'm gonna play Chief X video clips of it, and then I'm gonna address it point for point. Okay, and that's something that even Chief X said he did, as if he's the only one that does that, and we've been doing it for years. That's I even do that. If anybody's familiar with me, I even do that on Facebook. Whenever I address a person's comment, I always quote in double arrow brackets what I'm addressing. So I will quote a person's sentence. That way I'm never accused of misrepresenting somebody's words because I paste them, copy and paste it. So on videos, I do the same thing. So anyway, let me pull this up. Let's see. Let me get this. Okay, so we're going to go. Now, I have a total of 7 clips. Some of them are real short. Only one of them is pretty long. Well, not pretty long, but it's only 7 minutes. The longest clip is 7 minutes. I'm just giving y'all a heads up. All right. So here's the first clip, and I'm going to address everything one by one. All right. So I'm going to play it. Hopefully you will be able to hear it, and it will be clear to you. And so here we go.
Here we go. This is how I do it. These other fake niggas don't do it the way I do it. I play their words, and I play them making their claim so the people can see it, and then I go correct it. So nobody can ever say Chief X lied on us. They'll lie on me all the time. They'll make a false narrative, have they followers thinking something is this way, but it's really another way. That's why I keep saying, play my words and then correct me. They refuse to do that. Because
wait, so he just claimed, well, I know he said they, that's a pronoun, so that's very vague. But he says things like this as if he's the only one that does this. But as you all can see, I'm doing it right now, and I always do it. I play the person's words, I play the video clips, or if they made a statement on Facebook, I will share the statement. I will share my screen and show Facebook just like I did my own. Okay, that's the way to go. So let me let this play. And I think that was the whole point for this clip. Now, let me just give a little context in case you all weren't up on the conversation that they were having. So he is playing the video from Baltimore Bobby, or Bobby Baltimore, and Smash. Okay, and the video is titled Unc gives Chief X one last chance to retract his false claims about the race in ancient Egypt. Now again, I'm gonna repeat myself. My stance on the whole topic about the race of ancient Egyptians is retarded. Period. People need to let it go and do some real studying. If you're interested, if you're not interested in ancient Egyptian culture, then let it all go. Do something else. Become better at something else. Don't skirt around the edge and fake like you know what you're talking about. That's problematic. But anyway, let it keep going.
my words are not wrong, and I don't teach no misinformation, right?
Okay, so that was that clip. So that was the point of that clip, was to establish that what Chief X is addressing and the fact that he's playing people's words. And this is exactly what I do, and this is what I'm doing tonight. All right, so let me pull up the next clip. So we're going to go point for point because you all are going to get something out of this. And I wouldn't do it if that wasn't the case. So here's the next clip. I'm going to let it play.
But both these niggas is wrong and don't know
Okay, well, wait. Let me apologize to all of you all who listen to our channel. At least Chief X is going to curse up a storm. All right, and I didn't want to take the time out to silence the curse words or bleep it out or anything like that. So I'm playing it as is. So I want to apologize ahead of time. But you know, I'm not down with the cursing and this, that, and the other. I feel that, you know, people can articulate themselves better. I'm just not with it myself. But hey, we're all adults, and it's, you know, it's not like we don't hear them. But so I'm just giving y'all a heads up.
shit about Egypt except stealing their fucking history. They might know a little meta-natter, a little bit of this shit, but compared to a real Egyptologist, all these niggas is whack.
Now see, he keeps saying that in the bigger plural, instead of just limiting it to Unk and Smash. He keeps like saying all these Negroes, all these blah 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 and stuff, and so you know, so he's overstretching the two brothers that he's addressing. I just want to point that out, you know, and so people get into this, you know, one blanket fits all type of point the finger type thing, and I feel responsible to say something because as you're gonna see in a little bit, he's gonna use my video to support what he's saying, but he's misusing my video. All right, and so I'm just gonna set the record straight on that.
In pale in comparison, and don't know a motherfucking thing compared to a real Egyptologist with credentials. Okay?
All right. So the point of that was that, you know, he's addressing those two brothers, saying that they don't know what they're talking about and everything. They don't have they're pale compared to Egyptologists and this and that. Now, I don't have a degree in Egyptology. I don't have any credentials in Egyptology from an accredited institution at all. But I will say this, that I feel very comfortable in a conversation, whether it's one-on-one or in a group of Egyptologists. I can walk with any Egyptologist toe for toe. And I'm not saying that I would debate, because a lot of times I would agree, because everything's not always about a disagreement. But I can have a conversation, a very comfortable conversation with any Egyptologist out there. Any Egyptologist out there. Very comfortable conversation. I have no problem. And in fact, when people try to push back on or try to argue with me in debate, I tell them to bring your teacher, because I have better conversations with people who are learned in it than people who are faking the funk. All right, so let me, all right, so we're going to move on to the next clip. We're going to walk down all these clips. All right, so here we go. Next one.
I'm teaching these niggas. I ain't got to debate these niggas. I'm teaching them.
So Chief X is a teacher now. So y'all hear that? He's teaching. And shout out to Chief X though, because Chief X is funny. He is funny. But you know, just gotta use him to correct some things. All right, here we go.
Here we go. Listen to the fucking claim.
Here. He was talking about how the people who live along the rivers are the black in skin. But we have to go into the book to see that. But again, why is this so easy? Oh, there you go. Look. And the majority of them, especially those who dwell along the river, are black in color and have flat noses and woolly hair. Now,
Pause. So he's trying to allude to the fact that along the river, he's talking about Nile River, are these black folk. And they call this black person that you see on the bottom of this screen an Egyptian?
Now I'm pausing this right here because now Jonathan Smash was reading from the source that he has on his screen, which is Diodorus Siculus, Book 3 from the 1st century BC. And it's a quote right there on the screen. It says, "The majority of them, especially those who dwell along the river, are black in color and have flat noses and woolly hair." Now, in Chief X's video, and I only got clips of it, but y'all can go look at his entire video. Chief X did not even go to Diodorus Siculus book number 3 to read it, to read further, to see what and who he was talking about. So, and he did not address the quote. And so the point of Jonathan bringing this up was to cite someone who gave a description of people who lived along the Nile River. And that description happened to be black in color, as you see in red, flat noses, and woolly hair. So Chief X completely sidestepped the quote. And as I play further, he's going to focus on that picture on the bottom right. And that's where he's going to get corrected on. So, Chief X, I hope you're listening. Don't make this mistake again after I'm finished. All right, here we go.
Listen, we'll hear him. He called this guy on the bottom of the screen right an Egyptian. And these cats, Ankh, in Smash Rockwell, a.k.a. Magi, thinks it's an Egyptian. I'm like, how are you niggas who's supposed to have been studying this shit forever, teaching this shit, you act like you could read Medew Netter, but you call this person an Egyptian? Well, let's just listen to him. Prove it, Chief X. Okay.
So Chief X's point is that Unc and Jonathan are wrong. Now he doesn't address the quote. He completely ignores the quote, but he focuses on that picture, and he says that Unc and Jonathan are claiming that picture is an ancient Egyptian, and Chief X is against it. He's saying that they're lying. They don't know what they're talking about, and that they're wrong. Okay, so we're gonna keep on going through this. And Chief X, shout out to you if you're listening now or in the archive. Never make this mistake again. All right, let's keep going, because I'm about to show you how to actually teach this information. But let me keep going on the clips. We're going to walk through.
The photograph we see here is what I think this is in the Temple of Seti. Mm-hmm. This says retina.
Pause. First of all, it's not the Temple of Seti.
Now I got to pause it. So Jonathan said he thinks it's the Temple of Seti. So when somebody say they think, they're not 100% sure. He's going off the dome, obviously, but Chief X is not letting Jonathan off the hook right there. So Chief X is being very, he's like hounding that point and said, no, it's not the Temple of Seti. And Chief X is correct. Jonathan was wrong, but he said he thinks. It's actually not even a temple at all. It's a tomb. It's the tomb of Ramses III. But we're going to get into that. All right. But that's beside the point. That's beside the point, as you're going to see. So but I'm going to keep on playing.
Smash is wrong. Let's go.
Which means people, are Egyptians, to be specific. And I just cropped this one out because at this time they was the...
Pause. You hear what he said? He said, I just cropped this one out, and he put it together with these words and playing a fucking mind game with you niggas.
Chief X is off the chain when he gets into his mode, boy. But so again, as you all can see, Chief X has a problem. He says that he cropped this picture out and put it with these words. Now he ignored the quote. So, and this is the problem. People don't comprehend when points are being made and what those points are, because the whole point was that this is a description of the people along the Nile River. And the citations from Diodorus Siculus, Book 3 from the 1st century, and that's the quote. And it's available online. Y'all can Google it right now and then search for this particular quote or words in it, and you'll get right to it. And you'll see where they're describing things around it and whatnot. But anyway, I'm going to let this play out some more.
They think you're dumb. They think you're dumb and you won't know no better. So what Chief X got to do is save your honor and help you see through a bunch of lies that these niggas throw on you. I'm trying to help your dumb ass, but you'd rather side with the devil over the righteous man.
So Chief X is the righteous man, and Unc and Smash are the devil. That's the analogy he set up. All right, and Chief X is Captain Save-A-Lot. He wants to save everybody's honor by pointing out the lies, and then he's teaching the truth. So y'all get that. All right, so we're gonna keep going. All right, so let me go to the next clip. All right, here's the next one. Gotta keep track of which ones I'm on. All right, here we go.
Let's just hear these liars.
Depicting themselves exactly the same as Nubians. So I'm saying, what's ignorable about this argument? If this happens to be an argument in front of some sane, logical people, you would not be able to not respond to a quote like this. The majority of them, he's from the 1st century before Christ, and he's saying the majority of them, especially those who dwell along the river, are black in color and have flat noses and woolly hair. Isn't that checkmate? Don't you, unless you have a
Pause. He said that's checkmate. He's talking about me. He's saying he checkmated Chief X. We'll see. Come on.
source that says the opposite from around the same time period.
All right. So Chief X realized that, yes, they are talking about Chief X, and they are trying to checkmate Chief X by the quote. Now, Chief X totally dodges the quote. Again, I'm going to keep saying it. He dodged the actual citation, and he's focusing on the picture. But let's go to the next one. All right. And I got to keep up with the ones that I am sharing. All right, so here we go. Next. All right, so now this is the longer clip. All right, so I'm gonna probably pause it every now and then to say something. This is 7 minutes long, and I got one more clip after this, and then I'm gonna, give this lesson to Chief X and everybody else out there, and hopefully, like I said, hopefully people can stop being retarded and let this topic go. Let it go. Been 50 years. It's been 5 decades arguing the same stuff. It's keeping us back. But all right, so I'm gonna play this longer clip here.
Let's go, Chief X. Show these niggas what really time it is.
Okay, so Chief X been playing their clip, right? So now this is Chief X time to shine. This is his time to teach, boy. Chief X is about to teach us, boy. We in class now. You make sure you got your pen, your paper, your college rule notebook, that spiral binder, boy. Get it out, because Chief X is about to go in. Here we go.
That picture was a picture Wujaru.
See how man, Chief X is funny, boy, because man, he's not the only one, but I don't understand how people can look at my name and say Ru, like Wujaru. 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 Wuja. Wuja. Wuja and Wujaru, boy. Anyway, it's Wujau. 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 But anyway, that's just funny. Wujaru. All right, but so he see, now this is why I feel compelled to set the record straight, because he's using my video. Now he's gonna say this, but I'm gonna tell you all ahead of time. What he's showing on the screen right there is he re-uploaded my video onto his channel, and you can look at the date. It's from May of last year. Now I did this video obviously before that time. and he reposted on his channel. And then I think he and Unc got into it about him doing that, and Unc wanted him to take the video down, and I didn't even get involved with any of that. But so he's using my video as if it supports his statements, and he's misusing it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm setting the record straight on that. All right. But what I want to also tell you all is that this topic I've dealt with years ago. Okay, years ago. In fact, let me do this. I'm going to show you all quickly. It's like a little side note. I want to show you all. This is our Seshu YouTube channel. And I know you all can't, I'm not going to make it all big and everything. I won't take too much time. But this is our Seshu channel. And if y'all can see my cursor, I don't want to scroll and lose my spot. But if you look at this here, this is June 27, 2019, where we did a video called The So-Called Table of Nations, where I address these 4 so-called races, or the Table of Nations that the Egyptians drew on the walls of ancient Kemet. That was back 2 years ago. Prior to that, I did it before that. I addressed the same thing in these videos right here, where you see my cursor says discussion and review of Sheikh Anta Diop's The Egyptians. The whole title is The Egyptians as They Saw Themselves. This part 1, and this is part 2. That was also 2 years ago. Okay. And if I scroll further down, I did it further back, and it would take me some time to find it, but y'all just go in the archives and you'll see how many times I addressed this years ago. All right, I did a full thing. Oh, one was with the word Tamahu. People use the word Tamahu as if it means white people or Europeans, and it doesn't. All right, people got to stop that. Y'all got to call people out. Matter of fact, here's right here. Does the word Tamahu mean Europeans or white people? That was 2 years ago. Okay, these are side by side. All right, so you all have to call these people out and correct people. Don't be disrespectful. That's the thing. We don't want to cause drama or add to the fuel or the chaos and noise. Respectfully correct people. We got to do this. All right, so let me take that off. All right, so now we getting back to Chief X. All right, so I'm gonna let this play.
Former Amun-Ra squad member used to speak on and made a video about. This video I have on my YouTube page is called Color, Depiction, and Scholarly Racism of Ancient Egyptians by Wujawa. They was mad.
See, he said my name correctly right there because he looked at it. See, he's seeing it. There's no R in my name. Wujaru. Chief X is crazy. All right, I'm gonna let it play.
It's here when I downloaded Wujawa's video and posted it on my page because it backed me. And I had a Netter teacher named Wujawa co-signed me about Black Egypt. Oh, and they was pissed. Ankh wanted to have me take this video down because it was on point.
Inclusive of themselves makes 4 is what people are calling the Table of Nations. And I've gone over this many times. Let me see if I have a picture of it real quick to show as I'm speaking. Okay, right here.
Bam. Pause. People call this picture at the top right here the Table of Nations. That's a fake ass picture in a Photoshop. This one at the top, right here where my mouse is.
I gotta pause right here. Like I said, we're gonna walk through this clip. I'm gonna correct them as we go along. So Chief X is absolutely wrong. That picture is not Photoshop. And it's not fake in the sense that it's not the wall. Like, nobody's gonna go over in Egypt and chisel the wall away and then come home and carry the wall with them. That's crazy. What it is a redrawing. It's a drawing of what's on the walls. All right. Photoshop was not used. Photoshop wasn't even around when that picture right there at the top was made. That picture, and I'm going to show you all in a few minutes where that picture is from. But for now, it's from Carl Lepsius' work. Way before Photoshop even Adobe existed. There was no Adobe company, Photoshop, none of that stuff. Internet wasn't even around. None of that. All right. So this is what scholars do. Scholars take facsimiles. They actually go to these locations and they painstakingly, they get artists and people painstakingly redraw what they see from the glyphs all the way down. They handwrite that stuff, especially people from the German school of Egyptology. They're known for doing that. That's why the biggest ancient Egyptian dictionary we have to this date today is the German Wörterbuch, what we term the Wörterbuch dictionary. It's completely handwritten. Handwritten. It's several volumes. And it's handwritten, hand-drawn. Can you imagine? Imagine, you know they have to be in alphabet. They have to be in a ordered way. Not too far off how we do ours alphabetically, but it's not the same alphabets, obviously. But they're in a certain order, an ordered fashion. So imagine missing words, and you hand wrote a whole page, and you got to stick 5 words on a single page. That means everything prior to that page you got to do all over again to fit 5 words on the fresh page. To bump everything down, because you hand wrote everything. You know what I'm saying? It's not like a computer where you can insert. You could do a carriage return and insert a line somewhere. No, these people hand wrote all this stuff. So anyway, just want to correct that. So Chief X, when you listen to this, you're absolutely wrong. That picture is not fake and it's not photoshopped. All right. No one in any scholarly circle will ever call that a fake picture, because every scholar knows that you're going to create facsimiles of different text and things from the Egyptian temples, walls, coffins, and so on and so forth. All right. So come on, man. All right, let's keep going.
This is what Smash Rockwell cropped out and put next to the pictures of the Greek men. And people on social media have been lying forever about this top fake-ass Photoshop picture, and they're claiming one of them is a Nubian and one is an Egyptian, and as they're dressed the same.
Let me pause it right here. So again, Chief X is wrong. It's not fake and it's not Photoshop. And anyone who can read the glyphs can clearly see in these, in front of each 4 of these figures are the name of their ethnic group, the group of people. The first one on the left is Remech. The word spells Remech. Those are the ancient Egyptians. The next one is Amu. Those are the Asiatics. The next one is the Nahisi or the Nahisiu. Those are what people like to call Nubians, but they're not. They're the people of Ta-Nahisi, those people who live south of Egypt. And then on the far right, you have the Chemehu, which people mistakenly say Tamahu, and they call them white people or Europeans, and that's not. Those are the Libyans. Chemehu are Libyans. Nahisiu are people south of Egypt. Amu are people in the Levant, Middle East now. And the Remech are the ancient Egyptians themselves. All right, that's who you have. Those 4 represented. And they're always in this order. And I'm going to go into it more. So let me let this play, because I'm jumping the gun.
This is a fake Photoshop picture at top that niggas have been using for a long time to act like one of these black men are the Egyptian and one is the Nubian. Fake as fuck.
Oh, Chief X is off the chain. It's not fake, though. I'm just going to keep reiterating that. It's at all. I mean, boy, that's crazy.
If you've ever wondered, now I'm sure you all have seen this in some form or fashion, seen these pictures in some form or fashion when people talk about the race of the ancient Egyptians. They always go, matter of fact, they really only go to this top one here. Let me put my arrow on there. They
Pause. Wujao said they really always only use this top one for a reason, because it was a Photoshop picture and it's a fake.
Nah, I never said that. The reason why I said everybody uses the top one is because this is the only time in the tomb of Ramses III, and I'm gonna go into it further because I'm gonna show pictures right outside of Chief X video, but I'm gonna show you the pictures from my presentation that he's actually sharing, right? So I'm gonna show you all those, but people go to the tomb of Ramses III to say that the Egyptians are the same as the Nubians. Now that is false. That's wrong, because when people say Nubians, they're not talking about the actual Nubians who are in fact Egyptians. They're talking about the people who live in Ta-Nehisi, who are distinct from the ancient Egyptians. And so people keep up with the misinformation, and it's causing confusion. And I've straightened this out many times, but we just got to keep hammering at it. And you all have to, at least if you're gonna chime in on these discussions, learn enough to present the information. All right. This is why the word Nubian is problematic. I don't use it. I'm against using the word Nubian. You don't hear me calling people Nubians. There's no country called Nubia. And the Nubian territory, it's a region, no different than the Middle East. There's no country called Middle East. There's no polity, no state formulated country, kingdom, or anything called the Middle East. The Middle East is a geographical region, and that's how we use it. It contains several countries. Israel is in the region of the Middle East. Iraq in the region of the Middle East. Saudi Arabia, Iran, Kuwait, and Syria or whatever. All these countries are in the region of the Middle East. So Nubia is a region. And right now, if we overlay that region, it consists of Sudan and Egypt. Right now. That's the Nubian region. Upper Egypt, or we say south on the map, southern Egypt and northern Sudan is in the territory or geographical region called Nubia, but there's no country called Nubia. So anyway, but that's a whole nother topic, and I covered that topic before, but let's keep this going.
And they like to use it because it shows some black folk who are really Nubians, and they claim one is an Egyptian. Straight bullshit and wrong.
really only show this one. A lot of people show this one because they like to show this and say, this is the Remich and this is the Nehisiu. So they saw them as the same. And that's what people are posting on Facebook even recently.
Now, bam. They should.
Wait, so you heard what I just said in the video. Now, Chief X obviously didn't pay attention to what I just said because I'm pointing, I even moved the arrow around showing that the one on the left does represent the Egyptians, because that's what the title, the name in front of it, the figure is. The one in the third one from the left is the Nehisiu. That's who people are calling Nubians, and so they look alike. In this tomb, they absolutely look alike. And I'm going to show you the tomb. I'm going to show you the actual tomb, so we don't have to deal with a facsimile. I'm going to show you all the tomb and the images in the tomb. But I just wanted to point this out, that it's clear that Chief X is clouded in his attempt to get back at Unc and Jonathan Smash, and he's not even paying attention to the video he's playing. All right, so this is why I'm taking time out right now, and we're going to drill it home. But let it keep playing.
Should have known better to show that picture. They should have known Chief X was going to be all over that. They should have known Chief X don't take no motherfucking wooden nickels. Let's go. The Book of Gates. That's where those pictures are. Prove it, Chief X. The Book of Gates. The Book of Gates is an ancient Egyptian funerary text dating from the New Kingdom. It narrates the passage of newly deceased soul into the next world, corresponding to the journey of the sun through the underworld during the hours of the night. And pictures like this, right here, are in the Book of Gates. Here they go. There they go. There they go. And guess what? Let's just go here. Here's that picture that he cropped and cut out. What does it say right here? Nubians in the 5th hour of the Book of Gates in the tomb of Ramses. Huh? That's right there. That's the picture they was using? Yep, Chief X. That's what they was using, Chief X. Bust their ass, Chief X. Okay, I'm gonna bust their ass. What does that say? Nubians. So do Ankh and Smash Rockwell know what the fuck they talking about? Nope. Should you listen to them about ancient Egypt? Hell no.
Boy, Chief X is off the chain, boy. He's like, do they know what they're talking about? Hell no. He about to light a cigar and everything. He about to go to Cuba and get some Cuban cigars and everything, boy. Watch, he gonna get a plane ticket and some more stuff. But, all right, so hold on. I paused it because Chief X is really, really convinced right here that he bust up Unc and Smash. He really believes this because he found this picture. And see, this is the problem with microwave scholarship and just Googling. And the motive behind your Googling is really just on some I gotta clap back type of stuff. This is not scholarship. This is not progressive. This is this behavior is retarded. It is. And we gotta stop it. We gotta help our brothers and sisters if we can. Some people will be on help and some people may take some time. But anyway, so and I'm going to explain this in a minute. I'm just going to let Chief X talk himself out. All right. So he's saying the Nubians, fifth hour in the Book of Gates, in the tomb of Ramses III. So let's keep going.
You heard them. I played the words out their mouth. Both of them said that they were Egyptians. But here's the truth. They're Nubians. Nubians in the 5th hour of the Book of Gates in the tomb of Ramses.
That is the ultimate definition of aha, gotcha moment. That's what Chief. That's why he got loud. But watch, this is real easy, y'all. I'm telling you. All right, but let's keep going.
There it go. And they're next to each other. That's the real photo. This up top right here is the Photoshop fake picture where they're spaced out and they got other Hyksos and a Libyan in the middle of them.
He wrong. He said Hyksos and a Libyan. He is wrong. There's no Hyksos there at all. So he want to get on Jonathan for mistakenly saying the temple of Seti I, when it's really the tomb of Ramses III. He want to be all stick on that. So I'm gonna be on Chief X's head right here. So there's no Hyksos in that picture. There's no Hyksos on the screen at all. None. All right. So he's wrong about that. He's wrong about it being fake. Is not Photoshop. This thing was written by Carl Lepsius. Anybody, one of y'all Google right now Carl Lepsius. Carl Lepsius. Lepsius. Carl. I know you spell Carl. Look him up and just look when he was doing his thing and writing books. And you're going to see Adobe wasn't even a word, a company. He was doing this before we were born. All right. Anyway, let's keep going.
But the real picture is them right here side by side. And there's no meta writing all in the middle like you see here. It's fake.
Oh, that's what I'm telling you, man. Chief X off the chain, man. Shout out to Chief X, boy. I'm telling you, Chief X is funny. Chief X is really funny. He's funny. There you go. Damo. Appreciate it. Damo put Carl Richard Lepsius, 1810 to 1884. He trying to say he photoshopped. Boy, Adobe stock should be skyrocketed right now if they were if they were a company back then. Goodness gracious. Anyway, all right, let's keep going.
These are the real pictures in the Book of Gates. They're Nubians. They showing them bound right here. Smash Rockwell and Ankh. You're fucking wrong. Or you're just habitual liars. These are Nubians. They're not Egyptians. Why would you lie to black folk? Why would you niggas do that? Okay. Why was they mad at you? Because you posted Wujawa's video, Chief X. Because Wujawa's video breaking down the color depiction in ancient Egypt back what the fuck Chief X been saying. And they was mad when I posted this video. They said, take it down. Take it down. I said, whoa. This is from your Amen Ra Squad member. Are you disagreeing? No, they didn't disagree. They just knew that it backed me and make them look bad. Let's go.
Hold up, but before he plays the rest, so he's about to make another point. So let me just put a period on this point, and I'm gonna come back to it because after this clip plays, I'm gonna show you all. I'm gonna set the record straight on all this stuff. But so remember, his point is that number one, he never addressed Jonathan's quote from Diodorus Siculus from the 1st century BC from that book number 3. He never addressed the quote. He focused on the picture, and then he said the picture is fake, it's photoshopped, and this, that, and then he's using my video to support him. But he didn't even pay attention to what I was saying in the video. Evidently, because he definitely saying some stuff I didn't say, and it's the opposite of what I'm saying. I'm actually saying the opposite of what he's saying in my video that he has on his screen from what he's saying out of his mouth. And that's crazy to me. But all right, let's keep going. So he's about to go on to another point, and I just want to correct that too. So I'm gonna let it play.
Now I've gone over this many, many times, and I probably will do it again, but I'm not going to do it now. But my point to show this is that if you've ever wondered, though, why only 4 groups? Because people like to call this the Table of Nations, as if the Egyptians was trying to do myself. So let me just
wait. Now he just forwarded that video, and what I was just getting ready to say in that video was going to be totally opposite of what he's using the video for. And even the part he just skipped is the part that explains why there's only 4 figures in that picture up top. And that's amazing to me that he skipped that part of the video just now where I'm explaining it. So I'm going to explain it to you all tonight, what he skipped in the video. Because it's easy. If he just let the video play, he would have learned something. But anyway, so I'm gonna let it play. He's about to show something else with Ahmos Nefertari.
I fast forwarded. I'm moving forward. I'm just showing you how the racism and the color depiction and how these niggas been lying to you about the color black, and that when you see pitch black Egyptians like Nefertiti, it represents death in Egyptian art iconography.
Okay, so yeah, so let's skip all that. So that's that clip. All right. So the takeaway is he totally sidestepped the quote that Jonathan presented. He focused on the picture. He claimed the picture is a fake, it's photoshopped, and then he showed some Google Pinterest pictures with captions under it that said it's the Nubians from the Book of Gates, the 5th hour of the Book of Gates, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so those are his points, and so I'm going to address those in a hot second. But let's go to the next quote. The next clip. This is the last clip I'm going to play, and this one's short. And then I'm going to go on to address everything he said very easily, very quickly. All right, so this is the Nefertari part that he's saying. I'm gonna work my way backwards After this clip, I'm gonna correct this one, and then I'm gonna work my way backwards. So let me let this play. This is short.
Okay, so this was my original picture that I posted, and everybody can read my post, so I'm not going to read it over again. But
I'm pausing. This is Nefertiti on the left in her blackness, which represent death, rebirth, or fertility.
I have to pause it because remember, Chief X got on Jonathan for not being absolutely correct. He was being a stickler on Jonathan, so I'm gonna be a stickler on Chief X. This is not Nefertiti, it's Nefertari. All right, you can see her name in the glyphs. Ahmos Neferet Iri is her name, but we pronounce it as Nefertari. All right, that's not Nefertiti, it's Nefertari. Neferet Iri. All right, but anyway, so, and that's her in all those, there's 3 pictures he's showing, because this is from my video. Those are 3 pictures of her. One on the left is her painted black. The one on the top right, a golden yellow color, and the one on the bottom right, another golden color that's been faded. All right. Now Chief S is gonna call those 2 colors white. Now I don't know, if he needs glasses or whatever, but he's gonna say that it is white, but it's a yellowish color that the Egyptians used purposely. So, and then I want you all can watch my video to see why I was even showing that in the first place, but I'm not going to get into that. My point for this clip is the fact that Chief X is claiming that this the 2 pictures on the right are white women, are white. Let me let it play.
But on the right, this is also Nefertiti looking like a white woman with a fucking straight nose. So will the real Nefertiti stand up? This is the real Nefertiti right here. Not symbolic of death.
See, when he said it's a real Nefertiti, listen, I can't even do this with a straight face. Look, the Egyptian women were not all yellow. No, the Egyptian women weren't walking around yellow. These are done. You gotta understand the culture and the artistic standards and canonization of the artisans and stuff like that on what they did, why they did it, to understand why they painted women a yellow pigment, whether it's from the spectrum of gold to a pale yellow, and why they painted the men a reddish brown and any similar colors and whatnot, and not black and whatnot, and what black represents and stuff like that. See, this is what I mean. People have been on social media for years, long enough to get a degree in something. A bachelor's degree is, on average, it takes 4 years to get a bachelor's degree. You got people who have been on social media for way longer than 4 years, but do stuff like this and don't get any credentials in anything. And to me, that's troubling. That's definitely troubling. But I'm going to let this play. This is the last few statements.
So niggas been showing you this black picture and not telling you it represents death, fertility, or rebirth. It doesn't mean that's her skin color.
Now, Chief X is right about that, because that's the point I made showing this this particular picture and why she is black in that picture and why she's found in so many tombs. She's found, Ahmos Nefertari is found in over 50 other tombs outside of her own. And that's very rare for an ancient Egyptian and not a deity. You'll find deities in several tombs, but not a person, an actual historical person found in other people's tombs, especially if they're not related to them. Okay, so it's a special occasion, and it's a reason for all of this stuff. And so Chief X is correct about that it represents something different. That's definitely not her skin color. The Egyptians were not trying to tell you that Ahmos Nefertari was pitch black like that. All right, so
You fucking liars.
But the point here is that Ahmose Nefertari, who is seen in all three of these pictures, is the same person.
Pause. She's in all three pictures. Excuse me. I just said two. In these two on the right, she's white. In this one on the left, she's only black in death.
Okay, so working backwards, that's that pic, that's that. All right. So I'm gonna work my way backwards. I pretty much corrected the last one. So Chief X is wrong about it's not Nefertiti, and that could be a slip. That's cool. I'm just being a stickler because he was against Jonathan. That's the Ahmose Nefertari, and on that point, he's correct. That is not her skin color and whatnot. Now, so let's go back. So I'm gonna share my screen, and I'm gonna show you all what Chief X. Had he played the video and didn't stop it where he stopped it, he would have learned what I'm about to share with you all. So, all right. So let me go over here. Make my screen bigger so you all can see it. All right. So what I'm sharing with you all is my Facebook post from 2 years ago. It's a screenshot. That's why you only see the date, December 21st or whatever. But this is a old post. And so I'm going to read it. Now, this is my post about the word Tamahu. Because I've been asked questions, about Tamahu, and people still use that word. As a matter of fact, I think the brother Jabari. Now I know the brother Jabari is one of those people who still use the word Tamahu incorrectly to refer to Europeans or white people, and that is incorrect. It's just incorrect, and people need to pull his coattail, tap him on the shoulder, and let him know that. But on my post, I go in to where these people got that from. It ultimately traces back to Champollion. Ultimately, but most people don't read French and read Champollion's work to know that that's where it ultimately comes from. But they read Gerald Massey's work. It's coming from his book, The Book of Beginnings, page 27 in particular, where Gerald Massey incorrectly makes these claims, and then everybody else follows suit. So I'm just going to read this real quick. For those who have asked me about the use of the word Tamahu being used to refer to Europeans, white people, one of the sources that used is from Gerald Massey in his work, A Book of the Beginnings, page 27. And I had a picture of it in my post. Massey incorrectly identified one of the four nations represented in the tomb of Seti I. Now, remember, Jonathan said Seti I. But the picture he was showing was not from Seti I. And I'm going to tell you why in a second. Represented in the tomb of Seti I in a text called the Book of Gates, where the Remech, the Egyptians, are represented along with three of their neighboring nations, the Nehesiu, which are those south of Kemet, the Amu, which are Asiatics, those of the Western Asia, et al., the Chemehu, those of Libya. Massey incorrectly created meanings of created whites for the word Chemehu, which has nothing to do with the word created or the word white. It is the name of one of the groups of Libyans and the other one being Chehenu. Our goal is to raise an army of scribes so that we get to know Kemet intimately through its language, which is the DNA of culture. Let it be known. So Libyans were known to the Egyptians as two major groups. The Chemehu and the Chehenu. Remember those two terms, Chemehu and Chehenu. Both of those terms are for Libyans, what we would call Libya today. All right, west of ancient Egypt. Chemehu does not mean white people at all. Okay, doesn't mean the word white, doesn't mean created, none of that stuff. But this is why people use that, and they confuse that with the word Tamehu, because it's spelled. It sounds like when people pronounce it, they say Timhu. See, I would say TMHW. They say Timhu. They would just put an A. Tomhu, the Tomhu, and then they look at Tamehu the same way, Tamhu, and not knowing that the word Tamehu is a word for the region of Lower Kemet. Ta meaning region, and mehu meaning to submerge. Ultimately comes from a word for the bottom of something, something that is low, your feet, something submerged, something underwater. Because mehu was, that area was swampy. That area is at sea level, where it dumps out into the Mediterranean Sea. Okay, and so Ta Mehu is Lower Kemet. But they're calling these people white people, but they're the Egyptians. So people who are using the word Tamahu and say they mean white people, unbeknown to them, they're calling the ancient Egyptians white people. And they're feeding into the narrative that the ancient Egyptians were white. But yet they fight on behalf of black and quote Obenga and quote Diop and everything like that, not knowing that when every time they say Tamahu means white people or Europeans, they're feeding into it incorrectly. It's just showing people's ignorance, and we have to do something about it. All right, so that's that. But now I did this. So again, I did this 2 years ago and before. So I'm just going to go through a couple of things and show you all. So on the screen now is from the tomb of Seti the First. So let me explain this. The Book of Gates is a underworld text. They put it in a category called the underworld text. And the Book of Gates is a text that is located in several tombs. It's in the tomb of Seti the First. It's in the tomb of Ramses the Third. It's in the tomb of Myrna Ptah. And it's in the tomb, I believe, of Ramses the Sixth. And I'm going off the top of my head, but it's in several tombs. And you're going to see the story, or the actual text has vignettes. It has diagrams and figures and things like that. And so at a certain part of the text, it talks about the people who will be in the underworld. And the Egyptians named the nations that they were intimately involved with by way of the 4 cardinal points. Okay? And so the Egyptians was one, and then they had 3 others. And they were always put in the same order. They were the Remich, which are the Egyptians first. As a matter of fact, let me get my my trusty arrow. Pull out my trusty arrow on you all, like I always do. So now, let me explain this. In all of the depictions of the Book of Gates, where it's found in these tombs, the ancient Egyptian scribes, they show 16 figures. If you count all these figures, there's 16. So there's 4 groups of 4. So there's 4 of these, 4 of these, 4 of these, and 4 of these. 4 times 4 is 16. All right. But I want y'all to notice something. In between the 4 figures are glyphs. Not the ones that are above their heads, but in between, in front of them. So what the scribes did was they tell you who these 4 are by spelling it out in between all 4 of them. So the first group is here. I reproduced the glyphs here. It is the word Remech. That is the Egyptians. So this first group of 4, I should say, are the ancient Egyptians. And it's always in this order: the Remech, the Amu, the Nehisiu, and the Chemehu. They're always in that order. The Remech being first. Same thing with the Amu. Look at the glyphs in between them. You have the throw stick, which is here. I reproduce it here. You see it right there. You have the owl. You see it right there. I reproduce it right there. You see the quail chick right here, and the 3 strokes. 3 strokes right here. That spells Amu. The Amu are the nomadic sand dwellers, or Asiatics, the nomadic folks. All right. Same thing with Nehisiu. You have the what they call the Neh bird, reproduced here. You have the twisted flax and the folded cloth here. You see those 2 glyphs there. The quail chick, and the 3 strokes. 3 strokes. Same thing with the 4th and final group. You have the tethered rope. You have the whip. Quail chick. Okay? Just so that we're clear on this. So when people talk about this, now this is how it is in the tomb. So now I'm going to show you the tomb. I'm going to show you how it's arranged in the tomb. So this is the actual picture from the tomb itself. This is the tomb of Seti the First. Not a facsimile. It's not a Photoshop anything or what have you. This is from the tomb of Seti the First. And let me get my arrows so that I can point some things out. What I want to bring to your attention is, you see Heru here? Let's go back to the drawing. This where we at? Right here. Heru's right here. Okay. I just want to give you all context of where we are. Then there's damage. Then you have the now in this damage now was the some glyphs here, but now we run into the first figure. You see the two glyphs here. You see the glyph. You see the seated or kneeling man, the seated woman, and the three strokes. So 1, 2, 3, 4. All 4 of these are the same group of people. But what I want to point out to you, and these are the Egyptians, by the way, these 4, this first group. But what I want to point out to you is the next set of 4, there's only 2 people. But then notice that right here, this is the corner of the wall. So the figures continue along the wall, but it's a corner. So you only have 2 here, and then the other 2 are on the adjacent wall. It's the corner. So what people tend to do when they draw it, they draw it cutting off the other 2 and put it below it or above. And that's how you see it often online. When you look up this picture, you'll find the picture is broken because in the tomb there's a corner here. All right, so you got to turn the corner and then it will go on. So this is the tomb of Seti first. So I want to point that out to you to show you that it's a corner there. Now let's go to the tomb of Ramses III. But let me show you another picture. Now, this is the damage here. Now notice that this figure is faded. The paint or pigment has faded, but you can still see the figure. This figure is still intact, pretty good. This one is not. This one's faded. When you turn the corner of this corner, this figure is the same people. This is the Amu, by the way. These are Asiatics. And it's 2 figures. It's cut off right here, but you see this figure right there. Okay? So now I'm going to show you the other wall. Here is the other wall where it's damaged, but this is the last group, the Chemehu. And you see one of the figures here, and you see the other 2, but above and below they're damaged. But this is from the actual tomb itself. All right. This is from the same tomb, but this is on the adjacent wall where you had to turn that corner. All right. So now what I want to do is go to the tomb of Ramses III. So now here is the reproduction that Chief X was talking about, that he said it was Photoshop and a fake. This is not Photoshop and it's not fake. This is just how scholars documented the figures. So instead of writing or drawing all 16 figures, what they did was because all 16 figures are identical. If you look at here, all 4 are identical. These 4 are identical. These 4 are identical to each other. And these 4 are identical. So what scholars did was they chose one figure out of each group and then wrote down who they are. So the first group is the Remich. And you see how I have here, Remich, the Egyptians. The next group is Amu. Mind you, this is the tomb of Ramses III now. Okay, we done left Seti the First. We're in tomb of Ramses III. But in the same order. The Asiatics come next, the Amu. What people are calling the Nubians. Now, I don't like using the word Nubians, but at the time that I use this slide, I want people to know and understand who I was talking about. But these are the Nehesiu. You see I have it down here. This is what the glyphs spell out. Nehisiu. Okay. Then you have the Libyans. Now, the words I have on top are the words that are coming out of Shekanta Diop's book. And in this presentation that this slide is from, I was correcting something that Diop has in his book, Barbarism. I forgot the title of the book. All right. Diop calls these Caucasians. Or no. This is what people believe that the Chimehu are Caucasians, but they're actually Libyans. Okay. And Diop also did that. So let me show this because I don't want to give the false impression or you all not believe me. So this is Diop's book, Civilization or Barbarism. Excuse me. That's the title of the book. This is page 66. So if you have the book, pull it out. And you're going to see that Diop actually has a photo of this image in his book. Okay, and here it is. And so he says, figure 17, he breaks down A, B, C, and D. All right, let me get my arrow because I want to make sure you all are paying attention to what I'm pointing to. So we have A, B, C, and D. You got the glyphs here. Remich, Amu, Nehisiu, Chimehu. But look what Diop calls them. A, he says the Egyptian seen by himself, the black type. B, Indo-European. That's wrong. Diop was actually wrong. These are the Amu. These are the Asiatics. C, other blacks of Africa. These are Nehisiu. And then D, the Semites. These are not Semites. The Semites will be here. The Amu would be your Western Asians. The Chimehu, these are the Libyans. And so Diop was incorrect. And so he shows where he got this from, Carl Lepsius, in his book in Figure 48, which is where this picture is from. All right. And just to show you his book, this is the book here. Okay, this is Lepsius' book from the tomb of Seti I. And if you flip through it, you'll see the Ramses III, where you'll have these pictures. Okay. This is Lepsius' book. This is where the pictures come from. This is his actual page from his actual book. All right. And they drew it and painted these pictures in the book. Okay. So that's where the original comes from. As far as the original reproduction comes from. All right, so now let's go into Tomb of Ramses III, because I want to show you what Chief X did was that he went to Pinterest online and found two of the figures, and the caption under said Nubians. And rightfully so, because in the tomb of Ramses III, you have 16 figures. So there's 4 groups of 4. And the first group and the third group are 4 figures that do look alike. And one of the groups, they translate as Nubians, which would be the Nehisiu. But this group of 4, what I want y'all to pay attention to, let me get my arrow. Y'all gonna learn something tonight. Pay attention to these glyphs. Now look at these 4 figures. This is from the actual tomb. This is not a drawing or anything, okay? These 4 figures are representative of a group. The glyphs in between each figure spell out the word Remech. This group of 4 are indeed, in fact, representing the ancient Egyptians. But only in this tomb, and that's a whole nother conversation that I went over before of why the ancient Egyptians did that for this particular tomb and so on and so forth. But that's for another conversation. But the point here is that these are representative of the ancient Egyptians. You have Remech spelled out. If you put all these glyphs together, it spells the word Remech. That's the name of the ancient Egyptians. But there's another group of 4 in the same tomb that have the word Nehisiu in between them. All right, so let us get to that. No, that's the Remech. That's the same tomb. Now, on this picture, I want to point out, this is the same group. You see the Remich. These are 4, and you see the word Remich right here, right? All these glyphs right here spell out Remich. But look at what we run into. We run into a corner again. It's the corner of the tomb. And then it continues. Who knows who's next? What's the next group? Remember I said they're always in the same order. The Remich are first. The Amu are second. So this figure that y'all see right here on the wall is the first of 4 figures for the Amu, which are the Asiatics. Then there's going to be another set of 4, and guess what that set of 4 is going to look like? It's going to look like these 4, but except they're the Nehisiu. Scholars translate that as Nubians. That's what Chief X pulled up. And then the group after that are the Chimehu, or the Libyans. So let's look at the tomb and see and step back a little bit and see how it's laid out. So here is the tomb. Now I want y'all to notice. Let me get my arrow. Here's that corner. You see the corner of the tomb? Look at the top. You can see the corner right here. The corner of the wall going all the way down right here, right? Right here are the Remich. These are the first group of 4. Now, what I want to point out, though, is see this group of 4 right here? They're identical to this group of 4 right here. Right over here. Starting with this one. 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can't see because of this thing that's blocking it. But 1, 2, 3, 4 look like 1, 2, 3. And the 4th one is out of the picture. But this first group of 4 look the same as the third group of 4. These are the Nehisiu over here. This is what Chief X pulled up in Pinterest. Only 2 figures that were side by side that he showed. But he doesn't know that there's another group of 4 that actually look the same as that group of 4 that are actually called the Egyptians, the Remich. So this is what I'm talking about when people don't study this stuff. People don't have a passion or an interest to study. They simply want to argue, fuss, and fight and be retarded online. I don't know if it's for attention or to gain followers or to get likes or to feel good about themselves or whatever. I don't know why people do it, but we got to stop doing that. We got to stop encouraging people to do it. See, when we watch that and we like the videos and we comment and we say, "Oh yeah, you're right." That's enabling behavior. That's like a child doing something bad and then you just encourage the child instead of, disciplining the child. And we gotta step up and do it. But anyway, so I'm just telling you all that in the tomb, this is the tomb of Ramses III. You have a group of 4 figures that do represent the ancient Egyptians that are identical to the third group that are representing the Nehisiu, which scholars translate as Nubians. This is the only tomb and only place in all of Egypt that you're going to find this like this. And there's a reason, but like I said, that's for another conversation. But let's look at more of the tomb, though. Here is the wall straight on, where you can see a little more clearly. Now, to the left would be the Egyptians. Remember that there's a corner right here. Now, this thing is blocking it, but this is the corner right here. All right? You're on the corner of the wall, and then you're on this wall. These are the Amu. You see the throw stick. You see the owl. You see the quail chick. You see the 3 strokes. Throw stick, owl, quail chick, 3 strokes. That represents the Amu. These 4 figures, you can't see the 4th one because it's blocked, is a figure. 4 figures are the Asiatics. The next 4, starting with this person, are the Nehisiu. Scholars translate as Nubians. And you can see all 4 of them now. 1, 2, 3, and 4. See that? 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. This is the Book of Gates, y'all. Let's look at more of the tomb. Let's see if we can see some of the people after it. Aha. Here are the group of 4 that come after the Nehisiu, which is the final 4 called the Chimehu. And you see a figure, glyph, figure, glyph, figure. You see that? Chimehu. You don't see the first figure and the tethering rope, but you see the second figure and the whip, the third figure, the quail chick, and then the fourth figure, Chimehu. And then it continues on. All right. Let's get a look at step back. So you can see how the tomb is designed. See, let me get my cursor over here. My arrow. You see that? That's the Nehisiu along that wall. But along this wall that we cannot see are the rimage, because it bends. It bends around the corner. That's the corner of the wall over there. If we're walking the entrance, we walking down the tomb like this, walking. We're gonna hit the wall. You look to your left, you're gonna see the rimage there. And you can see the Amu in the corner, and then the Nehisiu, and then outside of this picture would be the Chimehu. So I'm giving you all a brief tour of the actual tomb of Ramses III. No excuses, no claims of Photoshop, no claims of being fake. Never, ever again. So Chief X, if you're listening, don't make that mistake again. All right? Ever. What else can I show? Anything else in this picture image? No. So here once again are all four groups, and they're always in this order: the Rimage, the Amu, the Nehisiu, and the Chimehu. Rimage, Amu, Nehisiu, Chimehu. Okay? That's the order that they are always in. And so in Chief X sidestepping the point that Jonathan was making about the quote from Diodorus Siculus, Book 3, about that description, he totally bypassed that and focused on the picture, which he's completely wrong on. You see how that works? You dodge the point and try to argue a point you think you know about, but end up not knowing anything at all. Something that he claimed Jonathan and Unc are, that they don't know anything. Well, Chief X doesn't know anything. Period. And so that's it. That's the correction for tonight. And like I said, I don't want to be too long-winded, but if anybody has questions, I'm going to post a link. If anybody wants to come in here and address anything that I said, I actually dare you. No, but if y'all want to come in and say anything, so let me just open this up. Let me post a link. Give me 1 second. 1 second, 1 second, 1 second. Get this link. Okay, so we have the link. The link is in the chat already. All right, so we're going to pin it to the top so there's no excuses. I want to hear from you all. Where we at? I got pin it up. Yeah, so any questions? Now I can pay attention to the chat now. So if y'all have any questions now, I can pay attention to them in the chat, or you can come on the panel. So the link is pinned, and so I'm gonna look at the chat and see what's going on. So shout out to everybody who's tuned in. I would do a roll call, but I see it's a lot going on in the chat. But y'all having y'all whole conversations in the chat. Were y'all paying attention? I gotta make sure y'all were paying attention. You know? All right. So what else? Yeah, short bus shorty, boy. This is short bus style. This is remedial. I gotta man. It's crazy. No questions? No comments? Well, I guess we could end early. Been on for 1 hour and 40 minutes. Got 15 minutes. You got 15 minutes. Come on, y'all. He paying attention to Chief not paying attention. Oh man, boy. But Chief X, if he's not watching right now, I know you're gonna watch the archives. It's probably too long. You're probably not gonna watch the whole thing. But y'all let Chief X know never to make these mistakes again. To actually learn something. And for like, listen, I don't understand why people who are not interested enough, because there's a lot of people who are fascinated about ancient Egypt. It's been romanticized and commercialized. Like it's everywhere. The symbolism is great. The Ankh, people wearing Ankhs, got Ankh earrings, Ankh tattoos. Egypt is a fascinating place. Ancient Egypt. And all of that, we understand that. But beyond that, if people don't develop a passion or a desire to learn about it, leave it alone. Don't try to debate about it. So peace to you, 42. 42 came on the panel. I think you gotta mute the YouTube side. But yeah, if you had any comments or questions, the floor is yours.
Hey, how's it going?
Peace.
I'm finally finished something, and so I'll reach out to you on Facebook probably in a week. So I've got
Okay.
some free time. But yeah, I just wanted to say part of the reasons why I make this argument is it's so easy. Like it's the race of the Egyptians, but I just have to qualify it. I only would take the time to do it if people are okay with the fact that I'm not arguing that they thought of themselves as anything modern racially. It's always like, well, how do you depict them if they're on the cover of a book? Or if you're doing a recreation, what skin tone do you use? Because if you just leave white folks alone, they will whitewash the hell out of Egypt. To me, they're about as crazy as you can get. Because like typically what I've seen is people who are classified as black today get sick of it. And I get that. But to me it's just so easy. It's like they'll pitch softballs like Chief X does. Like they'll just get some stuff that's noticeably wrong, and it's just like, well, okay. And then I'll just look at it like, hey, if this is the hill you want to die on, if you want to take this culture that depicted themselves like this and had a culture that crisscrosses and with modern people in Africa as strong as they do, if that's your business to whitewash that culture, after a while, I'm like, okay, you have to live with yourself with that. But I
Right.
think some people, they're just crazy. They're going to keep doing it. And that's like when I'll just back off. Because one thing, I was studying the culture today, and I wanted to ask you a question about something. Besides the point, maybe you could end on, but I'll let you respond to what I just said first. If we come back to that later.
Well, okay, so on what you just said, yeah, I get it. I got it like years ago. I'm a diehard student of Diop, Obenga. I have their works. I study it. I encourage other people to study their works and everything. And I get it. I read the backdrop and context of the Cairo Symposium, 1973, the UNESCO sponsored symposium. And I get it. I understand. And I understand the racism of early Egyptology. And I see what they did and how they did it. But the problem is once you know all of that stuff, what we can't do is use the same tactics but in reverse. And that's the problem I'm seeing. People are overcompensating. They're overcompensating the pushback. Like obviously if somebody's pushing on you and you don't want to move, you're going to push back on that so you don't move. But people are not equalizing the force. They're pushing in the other direction, and they're exaggerating. They're trying to make everything black, everybody black. Shakespeare, King James, the Olmecs, They're making everybody black, and then in the modern sense, we have this misconception of a black African as being this one type of person, and it's usually a person from Nigeria. Like if you look at the stereotypical black person, if you had to single out one person that represents the blackness of Africans, it's usually a person of the Yoruba population or of Nigeria that has that kind of look, that stereotypical look. And so in people's minds, when you say black or African, that's it. And then you get into the supra-Sahara versus sub-Sahara argument that the sub-Saharans are real Africans and the north of the Sahara, those are North Africans. And that's another thing Chief X emphasized in the video. I didn't even want to get into that, so I didn't even pull the clip where Chief X is claiming that Egypt, whenever we say Egypt is Africans, I see we got Osara in here. Whenever we say that the Egyptians are African, which is what I say, because they are, can nobody refute that? That's not good enough. People like Chief X want me to say, try to force me to say, the Egyptians are North Africans, instead of they're Africans. Ancient Egypt happens to be in the northeast corner of Africa, but it's still Africa. And so me saying they're Africans, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, and you can't say that that's wrong. So
you know what I also don't like though is it sorry to cut you off, but it does mean we can never really get to the question of how, for a lack of a better term, white ancient Egypt was. Because I think there was a range of diversity. And there's another thing. The Pyramid Age was during the time of the woolly mammoth. It was during a time when the only Greeks tested had dark skin by the pigment gene. So when I say how white they were, as far as a range of diversity, what I'm really talking about is someone who might look like a darker skinned Palestinian. And we can't really have that conversation, but I'm kind of in that realm because I'm trying to get a movie out. So if I'm describing, like even right now, if I'm describing to a director, well, what are you thinking about when it comes to casting? So that we can't even talk about that because Chief X seems to think that white skin was cracking during a time when we can't even find Southern Europeans who are white, like what he did with Nefertari. But that's what I mean. Like when you push too far, it means that you can't really think about it. But like I said, this is only in the realm of media. Although I think media is probably the fourth branch of Black Power to me. So and it's attached to the other ones because when to the layman, because there's such a hard push with bigots out there, to the layman, I don't think people see the ancient Egyptians as Black. Now, if the layman were to look at all their art, because I've done this before, I'm like, here's 100 or 200 pictures of ancient Egyptians. This is like most of the art that's available that you can find. Then they change their mind. So what they're doing is working, and it's going to have consequences. So I get the pushback, but that's pretty much my range when it comes to that topic on ancient Egyptian race.
So let me just say this real quick. The only way that we're going to make real progress is if we let it go, because it's the wrong tool in the chest to use to answer the questions and to answer the research questions, to dig into the culture and the genius of the ancient Egyptian people. We can't perform what they call project. We can't project modern notions on antiquity or ancient people. We can't use the modern notion of race as a litmus to categorize the people and then get stuck there and argue whether we're right or wrong when it doesn't apply at all. Culture is king. It always has been. No ancient Egyptian was standing at any border checking people's DNA or checking their skin color with a swatch of colors before you could pass in or be labeled as an Egyptian. People are defined by their commonality that lumps up in what we call culture. Language being a very high on the list. If you don't speak the language, you definitely can count yourself out of being labeled the same as me. If I am this and I speak this language and you don't, then you are not of me. That is solid as diamonds in cultural anthropology. So to apply race to try to group and have conversations is just a problem from the get-go. And we got to just stop doing it. So the only way we're going to make progress is if we let it go. Let the Egyptians, the ancient Egyptians, simply be ancient Egyptians. Why can't they just be ancient Egyptians? You know, that's the question I have. Why can't they just be the ancient Egyptians? Why they have to be something other than how they designated themselves, how they distinguish others and stuff like that? So that's the problem.
Plus,
We're
the
going with
conversation gets also a little bit retarded. Why it says a retarded conversation, because nobody, the notion of the social construct that we use to say who's black, because even among people who would consider themselves black, no black person actually knows what the term black actually means. Because is there a consensus on how much percentage of what of X determines if somebody is black? So even that, trying to compare or trying to figure out if something is X without even knowing what X is actually as retarded and as a nonsensical conversation as it will get, because nobody knows the definition of black. Is an attitude, is a state of mind, is what is it? Because it's very diverse. If you're using phenotypes, it's very diverse. If you're using skin color, it's very diverse. Phenotypically, we know that even white people will go as far as going through history, would actually go as far as terming other black people on a continent as dark-skinned Europeans. When it goes on to skin color, anybody can be black. Anybody, by skin color, you could have different people who are not probably considered black that could actually be deemed black, or other people who might not pass the black test on skin color actually be considered black. So it's a very muddy conversation to even try to figure out who the ancient Egyptians were, why they black, when the black doesn't even have a definition at this point.
Yeah, that's a good point. And just to underscore that, when you look at people, and people always try to invoke DNA and genetic conversations when it comes to trying to talk about who the Egyptians are, because ultimately people are trying to answer the question of who are the ancient Egyptians in relation to, do they still exist today and where are they today? That's because otherwise there'd be really no need to ask who they are, because we know who they were, because it's like so much text and everything, and they put their whole business out there on papyri and the walls and everything. So it's really a question in lieu of something else, and you're trying to figure out, okay, well, where did they go? Who are the remnants? Who are the the descendants of the ancient Egyptians? And they always invoke genetics and DNA and stuff like that. But if you think about it, on the continent of Africa itself, you can have two bona fide African people that are genetically more distant from each other than a person who lives in Europe from a person who lives in Asia, or even among Europeans, without leaving the European part of the Eurasia. And so the whole genetic thing and the whole trying to identify overlapping these layers of identity, because all of it is about identity, and we're going about it the wrong way. We don't respect the different layers of identity. You got a continental category of, okay, I'm African. What does that mean? That means that you are domiciled on the continent of Africa. You were born and raised on the continent of Africa somewhere. Okay, you're African. If I purchase some pottery from a country in Africa, I can say this is an African pottery. This originated from Africa. This is the style that an African culture did, and you call it that. That's on the continent level. Then you got a national level, because Africa has what, 58, 57, 58 countries now. So that's a national level. So we're getting more narrow. So you got, okay, I'm Nigerian, I am Ghanaian, I am Kenyan, I am, Sudanese. Those are national designations. Then below that level, you have more what we would like to call ethnic or tribal. Some people say tribal, some people say ethnic. Ethnic groups within a nation. You can have multiple ethnic groups under the umbrella of a single nation. So in Kenya, you got more than two, but you got Kikuyu, you got the Luo, you got the Maasai, and others. But they're all Kenyan, but they're distinct. And because they may live each other, they may even, on the genetic level, they may even come out of the same genetic population, because genetic populations are defined based on genetics. Cultural populations are defined on the basis of culture. But they're not one for one. Look at the Igbo and Yoruba. They're from the same genetic population, but they're distinct from one another as a people. And that's what that kills the whole genetic argument. Anytime people bring up genetics in this conversation, just walk the other way. Just shut it down. And even race at all. So we just gotta be hard at it. And I'm saying it's retarded, And I understand in the 1970s, leading up to the UNESCO conference, why our beloved elders gave the pushback. But we are the ones that's screwing up, because we didn't take their work and properly place it to kill the arguments, to kill it. We're actually falling for the okie doke. We're failing. We're failing. The word Nubia. Huh?
Just want to check. I sent a private chat. Wanted to see if you got it. A private a link.
Oh yeah, I can say. Okay, I'll look at it in a second. But let's just take the word Nubian for example. You hear people use it all the time. Nubian and Nubia or Nubian, it has been equated to black. That's what it functions as. It's been equated. Scholars did that because they took the word Negro and just swapped it for Nubian. Same way that to the Greeks, Ethiopian or Ethiops was a certain concept to them. Now we think, reading these Greek texts, that it's talking about Ethiopia, the country. No, it's a large group of people that they had in their head conceptually as black folks. You know what I'm saying? So this is the thing that we're falling for today. And so we say, okay, the Egyptians are the Nubians, but not understanding that the Egyptians are not the Nubians in that sense, because they're not the Nehisiu people, which they translate as Nubian. But in the real sense of Nubians, from as far as a geographical territory, yes, the original Nubians are in fact Egyptians. Coming out of Nakada, from Nakada, which is Kom-Ombos, all the way down to Aswan and beyond the borders of the waterfalls or the cataracts, in that whole region. That's a region called Nubia, not a country. And that's where Egypt gets its genesis from. The genesis of the Egyptian culture that we know and love came from that territory that we call Nubia. It's not a country, but that territory, which consists of southern Egypt and northern Sudan. And it works its way up, unifying and getting everybody all synced up and synchronized, forming the political state apparatus, the kingdom of Kemet. Simatawi later becoming Kemet in the 11th dynasty. So all this stuff trying to link together. And see, our problem is trying to prove that the Egyptians were black as it relates to white people or Europeans trying to say that they were white. So we're just doing the opposite. Instead of telling white folks or European scholars, like, listen, cut that out. Race don't apply. The Egyptians are not white. And building off of that, but now we're pushing back and calling them black, which people are taking and running with it and saying that they're black, that they're us. And you got African Americans claiming to be Egyptians and saying that, hey, those are our ancestors. That's us. And, you got all of Africa. And then everybody do a DNA test, and their their DNA is telling them that they are related to West Africans. They share more DNA with West Africa. So then that forces people to try to make a connection between Egypt and West Africa now, because it's all trying to link up with Egypt. You see, so it's a pathway that we have taken and fallen for the past 5 decades. And in the meantime, and during all this time, we are further and further behind on understanding Egypt as a culture. You got German schools of Egyptology, British schools of Egyptology, French schools of Egyptology, American schools out of Chicago Oriental Institute, etc., that are way ahead of us when it comes to Egyptian text, documentation, mastery of the language, and all of that good stuff. Now we're seeing, spikes of African scholars from the continent digging in, because we do have an advantage, or the African scholars have the advantage over the Europeans, because they live a related culture and they speak a related language. So they could dive in and have the advantage there. But where we have the disadvantage is we don't have the documentation, we don't have the tenure and the funding and the experience as the European Egyptologists, because they're the ones that started in the early 1800s. So that's what we need to build on. Stop worrying about if the Egyptians were black. It doesn't matter. But I'll say the same thing about them being white. So, I'm not trying to say, I'm not trying to say, let's ignore the white push. What I'm saying is that kill the white push and don't create another problem. Don't fix a problem by creating another problem. That's the message that I advocate. Don't do that. The Egyptians are the Egyptians. Race does not apply. The ancient Egyptians are not a race of people. They are that's like saying, okay, Kenya, there's a race called Kenyans.
Yeah, plus, I mean, common sense would tell you by the location of Egypt that it is within a vicinity where there's different cultures or different tribes, just not just coming from the continent itself, but also outside the continent. So you would actually have to think logically that there was no closed border, so there would be different groups of people coming in and out of Kemet, whether it's from the what we call sub-Saharan part, or whether we call or from the the top part of of Kemet, and all that stuff. So you can't really rule out, and you can't really get stuck on one particular what we would call race. And that's why it's always said that it was a cosmopolitan place, just like you would have with modern present day United States of America. But geographically, knowing where it lies, we can't just be stuck on that. So you have to actually have, logically think that there would be different groups of people. So there will be, a mixture and things of that nature. And then obviously, even if you were to actually take on the task of trying to figure out what race were they, then it wouldn't even be just a generalization of what race. It would depend on the different periods and what were happening during those different periods. So and then on top of that, you also have to consider that you don't even have a substantial amount of we don't have a substantial amount of mummies coming out of different periods enough to even have a database, a population database that would actually help us have that kind of conversation. So we have to focus on things that actually make sense and where we're trying to go, as opposed to working with a lot of unknowns in that sense. But deduction will tell us that we can use anthropology, we can use languages and things of that nature to figure out where there was some relationships and things of that nature, like with what Assad does, with comparative linguistics, and then other people might do with other different tools that they have. But that conversation has its own different tools that can be used, and then different periods of actually trying to figure out where at what point in time are we actually having a particular discussion. So you can't just be having a all over the place type of conversation without proper understanding of that.
I think y'all just hating because the ancient Egyptians were olive.
That's right. They were green because we came to this planet from another planet, Sirius, and we were olive tone in skin color, and because we breathed oxygen, our skin rusted and turned brown.
People forget
Yes.
that olives are black. There are green olives,
Yeah.
but for the most part, olives are black. Are they trying
You don't
to
really see too many
argue
green
olive
people.
oil? The clear
olive oil.
They be real red then.
It's crazy. People will say that. Yeah, I've heard people who are have Middle Eastern heritage from a Middle Eastern country. They will say, I hear most of them will say they'll use that olive commentary. They'll say, no, they're olive, as if olives aren't dark, dark brown, greenish, dark, from dark green to brown and stuff like that. They use that.
Can I
But like I
share
said, I think
link I sent?
Say it again.
Can I share that link I sent? Share my screen with it.
Oh, Afro Style, yeah. That's Shaka and Dugo Kemet.
Yeah, that's Shaka and Dugo Kemet.
I remember him from years back, boy. But
He's
yeah,
still
you
around.
can.
Because I just wanted to make the point that I can only find this instance on his site. Like, this is kind of swept under the rug. But this is the University of Michigan whitewashing Philip Emeagwali, if I'm pronouncing his name right. This is Philip Emeagwali.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I mean. Like, we're up against people who are, I think, a step past demented. So, and then you have a lot of people who just don't know. And we're coming from a one drop perspective. We'll call what's his name from the Nation of Islam, Farrakhan. He's black from our cultural point of view, and how we cover. So, of course, we gonna look at Egyptians who are a shade typically darker in when they're milking cows and baking bread as being black people. So, to me, we're coming more from a point of view of just basic common sense. And then you have people who kind of obfuscate that and go further. But I don't even know how wrong they could be, because I would guess the bulk of our ancestry, looking at that one map. I've seen other people post it, but it's the map that shows population density in the Green Sahara. I would say that most of our ancestry was west of Egypt, but you cannot describe a West African in general. Like, if you generalize that much of the continent, which is difficult genetically because you got pygmies that'll pull us in all kinds of different directions because they're far more divergent. But to the extent that you can do that, you can't describe West Africa genetically without East Africa and possibly even the Levant. So when they say we came from the Nile Valley, to what extent? And that's one of those things. There's just not enough information for me. There's enough information to why I say maybe a proportion, maybe give an estimate. But that's just the point I'm making, is that, and not only are they this nuts that they would whitewash a straight up Nigerian who looks like a Nigerian, A university would do.
Yeah.
There, I think, money on the line because of the industries that that just the depictions of ancient Egypt produces. And like I think it was Kennedy who said that a lot of times this whole thing that they just don't want to say is, are the Egyptians white? I think like the lady, I forget her first name that you interviewed, sorry. So that's what I mean. Like, how would you address this? And so the only way I've seen it is I look at it like, okay, how would you show these people in a commercial, in a video game? And this is how I would do it. And then that sort of puts them on the spot because the images like you have up right there of the hieroglyph. Because chances are they're not going to produce a nose that looks like the common face of Egyptian hieroglyphs. So
Yeah, but
that's
we already witnessed that. And Asar, I want you to, if you don't mind, I put this up because I know you recently did a post that raised a good point. So I want you to, if you can, just reiterate the point you were making. But I want to say this about the movies. Now remember, what was it? Gods of Egypt. It was a movie that came out. It's called The Gods of
Yeah.
Egypt or something like that. And
Yeah, it's
it
the
got
gods of Egypt.
yeah, it got a lot of flack because of people felt that it was a misrepresentation of the deities and and all that good stuff. So we've seen that. And so if some so that is a tough task for somebody to do. But they would have to consult with people who know what they're talking about, know what they're doing, and not try to appeal to one interest group over the other, but just to do it objectively and really create a mixture, a diversity if they're going to do something about Egypt to represent, because color wise, the bulk of Egyptian art is not black. So obviously you don't look for the darkest people if you're going to cast, because the tone, the pigment that was used was this reddish brown, descheretish type pigment that they used for the skin, and then they altered it when they want to show a group of people. So they had a little lighter reddish, and then altered it with a darker reddish when they want to show large groups of people. Like when you see the tomb, especially the Beni Hassan tombs, where you see large people wrestling and doing some things in a large group. As far as skin color, but then if you want to go for the sculptures and the wooden sculptures and stuff, to try to get their facial features in terms of cheekbones and nose and stuff like that, you gotta do a lot of work to try to be as accurate to represent at least what's in the artwork. But what are they gonna do? Are they gonna make all the women yellow? You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
it he said yeah, but I'm saying, but so it's gonna take some consultation by the movie makers to really do something where it's more accurate and whatnot. And that movie did not do that. Obviously, they had Horus losing his eye and just being all, and Jehudi like this little wimp and stuff like that. I mean, it was, to me, it was terrible. But anyway, so yeah, so I don't know what you were gonna say, but if if you can, uh, reiterate your point on your post. I know you did a post about the face. If you don't, I
Yes.
will.
Well, I would like to do two things to make two points. So since you brought up this one, I'll start with this first. And so what I posted on my page, my Facebook page, and I also posted this on my community part of my YouTube channel, is this face here. And so we're having these conversations about the phenotypes of the ancient Egyptians. And you have people like Chief X who go out of their way to try to make the argument that the Egyptians were not black people. And some will even go as far as to argue that there was no black people in ancient Egypt, and the only reason why there's some later on is because they came late, right? As a result of quote unquote slavery. So the question then becomes, well, if these African people, you've already defined them to have, if we just go by your logic that the quote unquote sub-Saharan African is the one with the flat wide nose and big lips and dark skin and nappy hair, if that in fact is the stereotypical definition of what someone is black, how did these black folks become part of the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs? And one of the pictures that I show was one similar to this that I took in Egypt when I went on the uh, the Ku Kemet tour with brother Ankh Benu at the Temple of Karnak, right? And so it was similar to the one that you see there. And it's the hieroglyph for the face. And is written as, dotted HR. And we typically say her as the pronunciation in our Egyptology speak, right? So one of the things that you can see, and I see brother Ujawu is showing various variations of the same image, is that they consistently through all periods of time show these stereotypical features of the folks who lived in the South. Now you have to wonder, what was the inspiration for them? If there was no black people in ancient Egypt, where did they get the inspiration just out of their imagination to depict the quintessential ideal human face to match the people who live to the south of the southern borders of Egypt? So either they were just creative, or and this is just something out of their imagination, or they came across folks and they said, you know what, let's make the hieroglyphs look like those people over there, or the people who originated the hieroglyphs depicted themselves. They used themselves when it came to the graphical representations of what it meant to be human in their own script. And so I go with the latter, the last one that I just named. And if you would permit me to share my screen, I would like to answer a question going back. I know earlier in our program we mentioned Diodorus Siculus. And so, when you read that from, or when Brother Smash read that from whatever program that was with him and Unc was talking, he read a particular portion of Diodorus Siculus's work. And so I want to read another one that brings this, into a greater perspective. And so
You can share.
I still see that
I'm
you're
just
showing.
Yeah, I'm just it's my last one. I just people called me to go to the archives, man. I got
Yeah,
these
her
faces.
face.
It makes no sense whatsoever. That's why, like I said, I'm pushing people to
Even
give it
down
up.
to the hair.
Yeah,
You know.
they got to give it up. They got to look at the hair right here. They got to give it up. The ear is the only one that's in profile. The face is forward facing. Then they got exaggerated beard. But yeah, you can share your screen. I don't see it. You didn't share it yet?
Oh, because I thought you had to stop sharing yours first.
Oh no, you go ahead. Go ahead. I just
Alrighty.
swap it. Yeah. I'm just showing people what. All right, you got it.
All
It's on
right.
yours now.
So I'm at penelope.uchicago.edu from the University of Chicago, right? I don't know if that's Penelope or Penelope, how you properly pronounce that, but regardless, this is a translation of the book 3 of Diodorus Siculus, who was a Greek and who lived, I think, the 1st century BCE. And so, he's writing about the ancient Egyptians here. And so I'm just going to scroll down to this area here. And let me see if I can
Can you control
blow this
plus and
up.
yeah,
It
yeah,
is larger now.
yeah. There you go.
All right. So what I'm going to be reading is, for the most part, all of this. And so, hopefully y'all can see it on your screen. If I can't post from back here, can I? Into the chat?
Yeah, you should be able to. Oh no, I don't think you got to go on the YouTube side. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm not on the YouTube page, but anyway, so this is what him traveling into Egypt. This is what he says, and so he says they say also that the Egyptians are colonists sent out by the Ethiopians, Osiris having been the leader of the colony. For speaking generally, what is now Egypt, they maintain, was not land, but sea when in the beginning the universe was being formed. And this is interesting unto itself. And we need to go back to that. If you can remind me to go back to that later on in our conversation, because it's interesting that they would have memory of this.
Yeah.
And so just, if anybody writing it down saying, Asar, come back to this, we can revisit it later. All right. So let me see, where was I? It was not land but sea when in the beginning the universe was being formed. Afterwards, however, as the Nile during the times of its inundation carried down the mud from Ethiopia, land was gradually built up from the deposit. Also, the statement that all the land of the Egyptians is alluvial silt deposited by the river receives the clearest proof, in their opinion, from what takes place at the outlets of the Nile. For as each year new mud is continually gathered together at the mouths of the river, the sea is observed being thrust back by the deposited silt, and the land receiving the increase. And the larger part of the customs of the Egyptians are they hold Ethiopian, quote unquote Nubian. The colonists still preserving their ancient manners, right? So the colonists who are now in Egypt still maintain their old customs from when they originate from the land in which they originated. And so, for instance, their belief that their kings are gods, Netchers, which is a fact, the very special attention which they pay to their burials, and many other matters of similar nature are Ethiopian practices, right? While the shapes of their statues and the forms of their letters are Ethiopian. In other words, the forms of their hieroglyphs are Ethiopian. For of the two kinds of writing which the Egyptians have, that which is known as popular, therefore demotic, is learned by everyone, while that which is called sacred is understood only by the priests of the Egyptians, who learn it from their fathers as one of the things which are not divulged. But among the Ethiopians, everyone uses these forms of letters. Furthermore, the orders of the priest they maintain have much the same position among both peoples, for all are clean, who are engaged in the service of the gods, keeping themselves shaven like the Egyptian priests, and having the same dress and form of staff, which is shaped like a plow and is carried by the kings, talking about the wasp scepter, who wear high felt hats, which end in a knob, talking about the Hejet crown, or Atef crown, um, at the top, and are circled by the serpents, which they call asp. And this symbol appears to carry the thought that it will be the lot of those who shall dare to attack the king to encounter death-carrying stings. Many other things are also told by them concerning their own antiquity and the colony which they sent out that became the Egyptians. So many other things are also told by them concerning their own antiquity and the colony which they sent out that became the Egyptians. But about this, there is no special need of our writing anything. And so he continues, we must now speak about the Ethiopian writing, which is called hieroglyphic among the Egyptians, in order that we may omit nothing in our discussion of their antiquities. Now it is found that the forms of their letters take the shape of animals of every kind, and of the members of the human body, and the implements and the special carpenter's tools. For the writing does not express the intended concept by means of syllables joined one to another, but by means of the significance of the objects which have been copied, and by its figurative meaning which has been impressed upon the memory by practice. Yada 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 yada. So he goes on, in terms of his hypothesis about the nature of the hieroglyphs. But the point being here is twofold. One, that according to the people who he spoke with in Egypt, that the Egyptians were originally colonists sent by of the Ethiopians, who first settled in the area. And then secondly, that the hieroglyphs themselves were invented by the Ethiopians, by the quote unquote Nubians. And so, as I stated, that's what would make it make sense. And here's the post that I posted on why the quintessential face has this quote unquote Ethiopian facial features, right? The so-called burnt. And here's Sister Deidre's composite of these same faces that, some of them you saw Brother Wujawu. And this brother's nose is so wide here, he's the stereotypical Negro.
Wait, let me see. Do I have that one? Yeah, hold on. I skipped that. Hold on. Let me just put this up real quick. Hold on. Let me just swap with you. I want people to see that big. Wait a minute. There you go, right there.
He reminds me
Yeah,
of Don
man.
Cheadle a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
There he is right there, so everybody can see it.
His nostrils are wider than his mouth. They go over like, and I understand it's a carving, but I'm just saying, you know.
Good gracious, that's like cheek to cheek. That's
that's
like ear to ear though. I heard a rap line. He done make Karis One look shameful.
And so it's just a shame. And so the second thing that I wanted to share, part of this conversation, is that one. So remember the larger conversation that we're having here. Historians have wondered: are the ancient Egyptians homegrown? Have they always been there, or did they come from somewhere? Now, you have the ancient records here and the archaeological records that they came from somewhere, and that they came from the south. That's what the archaeological record states, as well as the testimonials from people who met living Egyptians, not these folks today who are digging up graves. you know, the eyewitnesses who described them, you know, as having that kind of nose and those lips and curly woolly hair and dark skin, those witnesses, you know, it's confirmed in the archaeological record, those descriptions, right? So speaking of the Ku Kim Kemet tour from 2015 that I happened to go on with Brother Unc Benu and others, we visited a temple, the Jeannette Temple, and it is the what's it also called, Habenet Habu, what's it, Benedette Habu Temple,
Yeah.
or Medinet Habu Temple,
Medinet,
right? And so hopefully y'all tell me if y'all can hear this. Otherwise, I'm going to have to stop my screen sharing and reshare and click the button that allows for the sound. So can you see the
I can see
screen
the
that I
image.
just put up? Okay, so this is actually a video. So I'm gonna start playing some of it and tell me if you can hear it clearly.
It's really low.
It's low.
Yeah, it's really low. Like we're hearing it from your speakers instead of it being direct patch. So I don't know if you got.
All right, so let me do this. I stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to reshare it now, and I'm going to say share system audio, and then I'm going to go back. Right.
All right, pop it back up. All right, there you go. All right, there you go.
Okay, so tell me if you can hear it now.
To choose a royal wife.
Yeah.
You know, in that time, was allowed for the king to marry many wives at the same time, but they have to have one royal wife.
Hold on. So this is Ramesses III's temple, not his grave, but this is his temple. And so he's talking about Ramesses III marrying or not having a royal wife, and how this a main royal wife, and how this brought some issues later on. So this is, you know, one of our guides, because you have to have a guide with you when you're in Egypt, even if you do your own tours. So, you know, hopefully y'all can hear him clearly.
Because from that royal wife, we choose the official son, the successor of the king. So that king, he didn't do that. And we don't understand why that happened. Anyhow, that mistake, it cost him his life at the end. Okay? Because of that also, Ramses III, he got family troubles. His wife will fight with the Portuguese, will fighting with us. And because of that also, we have a chaos. Because of that, many children, many sons for that king were killed by their stepmoms. That's why we call him the unlucky king. Number two, that king, he got so many wars against Libya, west of Egypt, Nubia, south of Egypt, Syria, northeast of Egypt, and China. We have the Chinese figures in the temple. You will see them. To be honest, the word of China, it doesn't mention here. They didn't write down Chinese. But how we can tell they are Chinese? From the work of art. They write down here, see people. From the work of art, we can tell they are Chinese. Like,
Did y'all hear what he was saying?
Yeah. There's a big echo. I can't talk. I gotta mute myself.
All right, then let me stop sharing that.
No. You could keep. If you gotta play it more.
So what he was saying. So what I'm gonna stop here, and I'm just gonna go to the images now. So I won't play the other video because I have the video. So what he was saying there is that of course he had, visitors and enemies from, the surrounding places, but they also interacted with Chinese people. And so he was saying that, they didn't write the word Chinese, but we can tell by other means, including the artwork. And so this video here, I was going to show of it, but I took 2 photos uh, of the particular area in the temple that shows these individuals. So you really can't see them too well, even if I blow them up. It's really not that detailed where you can see these Chinese individuals. So I'm assuming that they were defaced after a certain time. So maybe there's even an older photo somewhere in one of the Egyptian archives that we can look at, and so you can see the kind of the warriors here practicing fighting. And here's another variation, or it's another set, right? So whether we can see them clearly or not, really isn't that relevant right now. What is relevant is the fact that, at least for the professionals who understand the history of ancient Egypt. So this is Ramesses III. I think this is what, 26th dynasty or something like that. That even at
still
this
still echo. Yeah, I think because you shared your system audio.
Yeah, so I'm gonna re-share it without the. Okay, right. So this better.
Yeah, there you go. Let me put you back on there. I was just gonna say that. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, Ramsey the III. No, not the 26. He's the third is before that, but obviously after Ramsey II. But yeah, I'll look at it. But you keep going.
Because I know that's it wouldn't be 19. What anyway? What was I saying? Oh, so whether this is an accurate depiction of the Chinese, the official documentation says that these are Chinese people from
He's
China.
the 20th, by the way, 20th dynasty.
Yeah, 20th. That these are Chinese people in the 20th dynasty, and they even depicted them there. And so you can see kind of the slanted Chinese eye. It's hard to see on the screen here. This one's a little bit more clear than the other ones because, people came later and defaced, all the images. But these are so-called Mongoloid Chinese folks. So the question is this: for those who keep trying to argue that Africans, those quote-unquote sub-Saharan Africans, were not in ancient Egypt, how come everybody else in the world can make it from where they at all the way into Egypt and be depicted, but for some reason the clear pictures and everything of these Africans that are native Egyptians, and of course they mirror their kindred further south into modern day Sudan and stuff. Those black Africans, for some reason, could not make it to Egypt, but the damn Chinese with no boats could walk they ignorant asses all the way from China to Egypt. But the Africans who can fall down and roll up the Nile, it was impossible for they black asses to do it. So everybody else in the world has these special legs and eyes and intelligence that they can walk and find Egypt. But you start talking about quote unquote sub-Saharan African relations and origins of ancient Egyptians, and people just lose all their kinds of common ass sense. And this is what I find frustrating the most. How the hell can the Chinese find Egypt from China, but the Nubians can't find Egypt from Nubia.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
they must have been wealthy selling orange chicken and hair.
Well,
I
they
know
had
how they
China,
found it. They wanted to make some money.
they had
That is biggest
Chinatown,
lick in the history of the planet.
they had Chinatown in Egypt. That's
You know,
crazy.
but
But
that
that's
you know we
interesting.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, no, I was gonna say that's interesting that he describes them as Chinese because I'm wondering because in Medinet Habu those statues like when you read the glyphs and stuff those are Amu they're Asiatics and Asia we know China's in Asia so I'm wondering if that's what he's if that's how they see him because I know like in for example I got friends that's from the UK they call Indians Asians and we don't over here and it takes some getting used to so I wonder if they just call all Asians Chinese like
But that's not the point.
no yeah I know
You know, so that
I'm
so
saying
you know
the
whether
distance is the point.
this is the fact that is the official testimony in Egypt right now that these representations are of Chinese people. Let's just assume them at their word. That
Right
means the ancient Egypt was so popular that word of its civilization made it all the way to modern day, what is now modern day China. And they sent folks to Egypt. And just as a side note, so remember that I was part of an online conference called West Africa and Beyond. And there was a professor Ngono, Dr. Ngono, who was who presented on architecture or architecture that was inspired by ancient Egypt in Southeast Asia, right?
hmm
And so he reminded me of this bit of information that I had, and I asked him afterwards, were you familiar with this testimony? And I sent him the video that I just showed, as long as in those two images as well, to because he was kind of missing the connect in at least in his testimony of where these Southeast Asians and people dealing with Buddha and stuff would have gotten this inspiration from. Like, how would they have known of ancient Egypt to mimic these aspects in their architecture? So if this pans out, this gives credence to that testimony in which he was talking about. But back to what I was saying again, regardless, so they even go so far as to be able to acknowledge that the Chinese and or whatnot were traveling these long distances and have been recorded in ancient Egyptian history. But when you just suggest that the quote unquote sub-Saharan Africans, these black nappy-headed folks, were in ancient Egypt, people lose their goddamn mind and find all excuses. Oh, well, the desert, was a barrier, and they couldn't walk by or around the desert, and they couldn't sail down the Nile from Uganda and all of that other kind of stuff because black folks just aren't intelligent that way. We can't figure stuff out. We can leave Africa and populate the entire universe. But when it came to pharaonic Egypt, we didn't learn, we forgot how to walk and build boats and the like.
Asor.
Go ahead.
And then you'll have people who will do this, but they want to put the Sudan in sub-Saharan Africa. That means we're talking about people who are one step away from Egypt, in a land with a river to follow, in a land filled with nomads and people who follow cattle with deities like Hathor. And that's what I mean. A lot of times I'll get into debates online, and it's just like, if you're willing to go this far, I'm going to watch you and grab some popcorn, because that's how far this goes. Like, because you'll have, to me, it's bad even if you're putting Sudan and North Africa. But there's maps and there's people who don't consider the Sudan to be part of North Africa.
I'll keep talking, but I'm gonna share the a close up of the image. This is from another photographer.
Uh-huh.
In my archives, I ripped everything this the photographer did. So I got I got his whole collection from, and he's well organized. So, but this is from Medew Habu as well. So this like a close up picture of it. I think, let me see if I can zoom. So that's the left one. So you can see how they would say this is Chinese, because it looks like Kung Fu Action Theater, and that's the second head that was destroyed. That's the third, and then that's the fourth one.
So I couldn't get that close when I was there, because at the time the there was doing some kind of construction thing right in front of it. So like in the video that I was going to show, you could see it, but yeah, like when you can see it a bit more closer when you're there. But again, that just underscores the point. Like really, like black people we can populate the universe out of Africa theory, but for some reason, when it comes to ancient Egypt, we don't know how to walk. We don't know any of that. Our legs stop working. The melanin in our legs stop working, and we can't do nothing. We can't do nothing right. So we weren't even there. And then if you find African, if you find African presence, then they try to say, well, that was the result of modern slavery, and that's how they got there. Like, man, sit your ignorant ass down.
I was looking for the glyphs under it. It's not a good shot of it to kind of say what that is, but anyway, not in this picture. But yeah, that's I mean, that's a great point. I mean, it speaks to the logic flow of people's thoughts. It's like how, like you said, it's just straightforward. Like why is everybody else on the planet, from sea peoples to Greeks to Romans to now Chinese, and then you got the West Asians, and then you got East Asians, Chinese, all finding their way all up in Egypt, but then people right next door can't just borrow some milk. You know how you go to your neighbor's house and borrow some milk all the time? They can't just knock on the door and be like, yo, and they're just a waterfall away, because the cataracts are nothing but really obstructions in the Nile, forming waterfalls and stuff. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
it's like, what's the point? What's the deal?
And especially since they had boats that could be disassembled, you would just disassemble the boat, drag it and walk a little bit around the cataracts and reassemble and keep going.
Yep.
And I think with some of them, it just depends on what time that you are what time of the season that you are traveling, because you can kind of go over many of them during the flood season.
Yeah, that's this whole thing. That's why. No. I'm just saying that's why my frustration is spilled over. Like I'm just advocating for people to just kill it, because it doesn't apply. It's really unfortunate that we caught up in it as much as we are, because we're so far behind compared to the material that's coming out. It's like new books coming out by other scholars pushing the building on the body of knowledge, and here we are still arguing over the same old topics.
But it's not the scholars. They're not scholars.
No, yeah, you're right.
So we gotta put everything in context. Like the chief X's and the chevrons, and they're not scholars, so they don't adhere to the rules of scholarship, and so they can just ignore, for example, and not respond to Diodorus Siculus's firsthand knowledge, eyewitness testimony that was read by Brother Smash, and just go in some other area and pretend like that, like he didn't even say that.
Yeah, I noticed he did that when it comes to that particular section where you have the first-hand account from the ancient Greek. That he ignored, and I think he did the same also on one of your presentations. But I always wonder, why is it that people don't ask themselves how or why Egyptologists, especially during that time where that emphasis was being made about ancient Egyptians not being black, why they never reconciled what the ancient Greeks accounts were with their particular views, their modern views during that time, because that's one of the areas where, if anybody, for people who are really interested in trying to figure out the race of the ancient Egyptians, that's a good avenue to actually start off at. Like how do Egyptologists of that time, because we know we have a few Egyptologists now that actually do actually say it point blank that that was a particular push that was done during the past. But people need to figure out, if they're interested in that particular part of ancient Egyptian people, why those Egyptologists never reconciled those views of the first-hand accounts of the Greek. Were the Greek just stupid people? And if they were stupid on that section, what else were they wrong about? Or is it just like they were only blind on that, but they were very bright on other things that we know the ancient Greek for? In that sense. And also the other thing is that people also need to be aware of the fact that Egyptologists per se haven't delved so deep into ancient Egyptian culture compared with African cultures, and they've pretty much say the point blank that hasn't been a particular area of interest for them during this particular periods, and it's only up until now where we have our scholars that actually do that, like you, Arsa, and also other African scholars who actually get into comparing different African cultures and ancient Egyptian culture. So knowing the fact that this is not a particular avenue for Egyptologists, the fact that whatever it is that we're going to get is new information that you're not going to even have a particular I don't even know how you will even have resources to refute anything at this point, because there haven't been any resource that have been extensively done in the past with ancient Egyptian cultures and African cultures. So this is something new that our scholars are actually pushing. So at this point, there really is no room to even sit and refute. Much more, the more we can do is actually delve deeper into researching and bringing the information forward until there is enough resources to work with, because this is something new that Egyptologists haven't done. So those two things are things that people need to keep in mind when these topics are brought about, and especially knowing that the people who refute this don't even actually have the basics just for the of the information that's already been there already in the past. They don't even have that, let alone the new information that's being brought forth. So these two things actually just make it known that whatever it is that we are hearing is noise, while people actually trying to do research work and updating information. So the best we could do is actually either sit and shut up, or be part of that research group that's actually bringing new information at this time.
Yeah, so you that was a mouthful right there. So you sharing? I know you got your share up. Climate control, Holocene occupation in the Sahara, motor of Africa's evolution.
Yeah, so I wanted to, while I was still remembered, to go back to that quote from Diodorus Siculus when he was talking about how ancient Egypt was basically swamp, and that no one stayed there, and then later, it dried out, and that's when they, moved up. And so there's historical geological and archaeological evidence to support that. And so this is one of the main articles, as you mentioned, the climate controlled Holocene occupation in the Sahara, the motor of Africa's evolution. And so, of course, I won't be reading, too much from this article, but I wanted to highlight this this series of maps, and it's showing at these particular times based upon these various excavations over time and their estimations of population density, right? So so there's 4 columns, labeled A, B, C, and D. And at the bottom, if you can see here, are the estimated dates of which this is supposed to represent. So you see here, modern day Egypt, modern day Sudan, and in terms of the borders, and then on the far left off the screen is Libya, right? So in column A is talking about before 8,500 BCE, and then column B between 8,500 BCE and 7,000 BCE. So C is 7,000 to 5,300 BCE, and then D is 5,300 BCE to 3,500 BCE. So this is around the start of pharaonic civilization. You're dealing with the time of Kerma and Nakata and all of that, so-called pre-dynastic times around here. So let's go all the way back here to column A. And we see these red dots here, right? And we notice that there's a concentration here on A, and then you see it more spread out here in these other images here. And so these are supposed to be, densely population centers. And so I'll just read from the bottom here. It says climate controlled occupation in the Eastern Sahara during the main phases of the Holocene. Red dots indicate major occupation areas. White dots indicate isolated settlements in ecological refuges and episodic transhumance. Rainfall zones are delimited by best estimate isoheights on the basis of geological, archaeozoological, and archaeobotanical data. So column A, during the last glacial maximum in the terminal Pleistocene, that is in between 20,000 to 8,500 BCE, the Sahara Desert was void of any settlement outside of the Nile Valley and extended about 400 kilometers further south than it does today. With the abrupt arrival of monsoon rains at 8,500 BCE, the hyper-arid desert was replaced by savanna-like environments and swiftly inhabited by prehistoric settlers. So let's pause. These are just the major settlements. These red dots represent the major settlements. So notice that before 8,500 BCE, the concentration is in what we would call Upper Egypt and Taseti, quote unquote, Nubia, right? But notice that it is absent coming from Middle Egypt all the way up to the Delta, any major sites. Not saying that one people like sparse, but these are the major sites. So they're all concentrated here to the south. Then when the monsoon rains came and turned the Sahara into the quote unquote green Sahara, then you see populations moving and settling in these particular areas, all coming from the Black African area. So of course, all these folks are settling, these are still Black African people, which is why when you go back to the notion of the Black mummy that they found in Libya, why it makes sense that the mummification process started with these Black African people. But anyway, so, as the dates get on, so now, after 5,300, that's when the desert started the monsoon rain stopped, and the deserts started to spread back out. So now it's pushing people, in every direction, because people are trying to find food, and they're following the cattle and all that other kind of stuff. So now you're starting to see population centers along the Nile going all the way up to the Delta. But why do we see this concentration over here in these areas now in the Delta and in along the Middle Nile that we didn't see here in column A in terms of these population centers? So that's when we go going to the next slide. And it says, during the Holocene human optimum, the southern Sahara and the Nile Valley apparently were too moist and hazardous for appreciable human occupation. After 7000 BCE, human settlement became well established all over the eastern Sahara, fostering the development of cattle pastoralism. And then D, the retreating monsoon rains caused the onset of the desiccation of the Egyptian Sahara at 5300 BCE. Prehistoric populations were forced to the Nile Valley or ecological refuges and forced to exodus into the Sudanese Sahara, where rainfall and surface water were still sufficient. The return of full desert conditions all over Egypt at about 3500 BCE coincided with the initial stages of pharaonic civilization in the Nile Valley. But all of this, it was too moist and hazardous to dwell. So that's why you didn't see the strong population. So it kind of reinforces what Diodorus Siculus was saying, that this area was essentially swamp, and they couldn't dwell there for a while. And so only after a time when the desert conditions started drying up the areas, that now you see these populations moving up the Nile, or down the Nile technically, further north, all the way up to the desert. All the way to the Delta. And I think that's something that has to be considered and kept in the back of people's heads when we're having this conversation on the populating of the Nile, and especially from the south, and what that means and what evidence supports that, and how that was kept in memory even amongst the ancient Egyptians when they told Diodorus Siculus these things, just in mythological form.
Right. And another thing with that, if you overlay that map with the older maps of how the Greeks divided the continent into three and so on, you'll see when they say Ethiopia, obviously they weren't talking about the country we now know as Ethiopia, but everything south of that line. And you could probably overlay that concentration of population or occupation right there smack dab in what we now know as territorial Nubia, southern Egypt, northern Sudan, right there. And that's like you said before, that speaks to the material culture from Kustul, what we now know as Kustul, and all that stuff, where the Kustul incense burner and the cylinder seals and stuff start to appear right in that same area, and then work its way up, from Nakata on down to that area. That's the same area that I saw on that first map, and so it makes sense. But see that conversation is hindered by the wrong focus on race, though. That argument, because it's clear, that's why I try to straighten out the whole concept of Nubia, Nubians, get that straightened out so that people can understand that that's just a territory and blah, blah, blah. Then it opens the way to kind of understand, okay, the Egyptians were obviously populated from multiple directions over its course of its history, but what we know as Egypt and love and iconography and culture, and especially the administration, comes from the South and all that. And they say so. The material culture says so. What you just showed says so even goes further back to before 8500. And that's natural circumstances with the desert, Sahara becoming a desert and the whole Holocene thing. So nature, the material culture, the writing, and oral traditions all line up. Like how right do they have to be before people start accepting it? That's what's frustrating. Like what else do people need? Like do we have to like literally bring a mummy back to life?
It reminds me like how, I mean, really, I think you do. Because if you're already foreign libation, you already got like Nihilistic style circumcision, and you already have um, animal fetishes and Zosa collars. I think, yeah, that's what's left to do. You have to resurrect somebody.
So the technology we gotta do some more stem cell research so we could
Um,
resurrect,
yeah,
become
it
a doctor.
On that note, could I ask that question? Because kind of related to the culture, but it's also related to what to magic, like resurrection.
Oh, go ahead.
But have you because I had a question about like pyramid writing on the pyramid text, at least how it's deciphered, and it's one of the utterances, and it's like the sky quivers, the earth quakes before me. I am a magician. I possess magic. Do you think that might have anything to do with just explosion technology?
Oh, by the sky and the earth shaking, some like seismographic activity or
Or
something
just
explosive.
maybe like, because I've heard like that Egypt had gunpowder, but that was, I don't even remember where I heard it, but like that. And it seems like a lot of stuff ends up being more mundane and scientific than it seems. And then, because I listened to you, forgot who else was saying it. I think it was somebody else on this channel. You were talking about Heka, and it's still pretty mysterious, but one thing gets related to a sound or to a noise. I think related to shoe in that sense. I don't remember, but
Oh
that's the
no,
only thing I was going about. Oh yeah, who?
yeah, who Heka and Sia are similar should be similarly investigated, like how people will investigate Ankh, Wuja, and Seneb. How those concepts are closely related, but were made distinct by the people enough to develop these attached concepts, Ankh, Wuja, and Seneb. So you got Hu, Heka, and Sia. Perception, they say the creative utterance or the authoritative utterance, and then magic, as they translate as magic. And I think that does a disservice because we kind of blow off magic as what we think of it today, and not really looking deeper into that. So that's a whole conversation though, because the pyramid text, whenever you talk about the pyramid text, coffin text, the so-called Book of the Dead, and the underworld text, there's a lot of prerequisite things that need to be ironed out before like a nice round table discussion on that. And people got to get on board with understanding figurative expressions, and the realities behind them, and that by itself takes work, because it's detective work. Because a symbol, obviously, a symbol stands in for a reality. The symbol itself is not the reality, but it stands for it. And if we don't live the culture, and we're distant in time from it, we have to make sure that we are swapping the symbol for the correct reality behind it. But some people don't even know that it's figurative to begin with, and they want to push literalism on a lot of stuff, and then interpret it and go from there. and then they'd be dismissive. Oh, the Egyptians were spooky and crazy, you know what I'm saying? They believed this and that and the third, not knowing that it's figurative. That's why I went through the whole figurative videos. How they wrote math. Even today. Math equate not today, modern time, but in recent history, math equations and formulas were not written in the notations we use today. It was written in poem format. So imagine somebody working out this complex mathematical equation, but documenting it in the form of a poem. And if we didn't know that, we would say this dude is spooky. We wouldn't even know that it's a mathematical equation, but it's a poem written figuratively. But he's writing precise equations. I forgot it. Qubits, I think they were calling it. Quadrats and qubits or whatever. I did a whole video on it called figurative math. But I mean, I guess my point, my thing is like that kind of question or discussion. It would really it would take a whoever's participating. You know, you got to kind of synchronize a lot of things prior to, or make sure before going into that, because the pyramid text, there's a lot in there. There's a lot going on in there. And you can get lost really quick. Osir, the different body parts, what the king goes through, whether you're talking about Winnes or Neith or Pepi the first, Pepi the second, whichever king is involved, they're going through certain things, being described similar to what the gods go through, being described, the body parts, and all kinds of things. So it's a lot.
I just shared the video version in the private chat of what Asar was presenting, where they kind of made that map animated and show more of Africa.
Oh, okay. Let me share this. It's only 45 seconds. Yeah, let me do that.
Yeah, and you do see that Egypt is not lit. Like the northern part, it's not lit until kind of later on.
All right, well, let's see this play out. Let me share this.
And then it goes wild.
Okay, let me get this up. Where did it go? Simulation of North Africa. Okay. Share screen. All right, here we go. Oh yeah, I'm looking at the recommended videos. Yeah, man, Russia and Ukraine, man. You know,
About to get them up.
they about to, man. They already doing a thing. All right, let me okay, I think that's big enough for everybody can see. All right, so I'm just gonna hit play, and we'll watch it. I don't have any volume, so if there's any talking, I'm just I muted it, but I'm just gonna play
There's
it.
no volume on it.
Wait. So we're at 10.8 thousand years before present. Okay. There's Egypt lit up now. But look at that brightness right there in that area though. All right, we at 6,000. But look at this gap forming. You see that gap forming right there, and that's what the other text was saying. The monsoons started to shift or dry up, or whatever. And here you go.
It's dark.
And it's gonna start
again.
Okay, now if we were to go by that went dark. So that was a little too fast, going back too fast for us.
I think it's all like relative in the sense that it probably had a larger population in Roman times near the end. In relation to everywhere else, it was going down, while like the other parts of Africa were starting to blow up population wise. especially like how like doesn't Nigeria have like 1 billion people or something? I think they're maybe not that many, but they're like fourth largest population in the world. So
What, Nigeria?
yeah,
Oh, I'm not
I
sure.
think it's like China, India, and maybe Nigeria is next. I think they're in the top four at least. I don't remember.
Okay, I'm not sure. I'm looking up now. Oh wow, I definitely spelled all that wrong.
The U.S. has jumped ahead. Nigeria is six.
Oh, okay. Yep,
11
China,
people live.
India. Yeah, I see it. China is number one. India, then United States is third. Indonesia, Pakistan, Brazil, Nigeria is number 7, right behind Brazil.
I see it. It keeps going back and forth with Brazil, but I think at
Yeah.
one point Nigeria was fourth.
Mm.
But like it gets really close once you get past India. Like it's everybody's closer to. They are close to 1 billion. Everybody's like 300 million or kind of close to that or
You know what's
low 300.
shocking? I guess it's not shocking, but we don't. I don't. I know I don't really pay attention to it I'm staring at it. But a lot of countries, like I'm in Georgia, we got 11 million population of 11 million. I think it's 11 million, and there are whole entire countries with a whole lot less than 11 million. You
Yeah,
know,
Georgia's a bright dot.
California, and you got Texas. So it's crazy in terms of populations. We got, and I look at these countries and we see them, we hear them mentioned on the news. We see, certain newsworthy things that take place in other countries, but I don't. It doesn't connect to me that man, that entire country, the population could come into Georgia where I'm at.
Yeah, Danish population could fit, two of Danish populations could fit Georgia.
Yeah, it's like 5 million, right?
Yep.
That's crazy to me because Atlanta alone is the biggest chunk. Danish people could just fit in Atlanta. Wow, but the
I
Ukraine,
think Cairo itself has 20 million people.
wow,
Yeah, it's that
right,
popular.
yeah, but China takes the cake, man. I swear, boy. China is in a comfortable lead when it comes to well, nah, India, they're close, India and China, but they're in like they're nobody's gonna pass them because after India, United States, and we're at 331 million, they got 1.3 billion.
Yeah, that's like Lillard and Curry for the 3-point line. China and
We
India.
could have been that in Africa had the slave trade not happened and took all our
Yeah,
people.
yeah, but look, India has 1 billion more people than we do in the United States. India and China have 1 billion more. Not 1 million, but a billion more people. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, Africa is about 1.3 billion. So, and when you hear talks about overpopulation, Africa always gets, a large chunk of that conversation, while you have places like China that are way overpopulated compared to the whole African continent.
Yeah, you look at the what per geographical territory per population. I mean, Africa is straight. Africa is straight. So, but all right. Listen, we've been on for 3.5 hours, and it's definitely time to shut it down. So, just a quick recap, though. I came live to explain my definition of zombie topics. Hopefully, we can cut back on them, and to correct Chief X mistakes so that he will never make it again. But I'm not too. optimistic on that. But at least people can walk away watching this and learn something, especially about the tombs, the so-called Table of Nations, the Tomb of Ramses the third, Seti the First, Murder Ptah, and otherwise. I see Chief X is live now. He says Ujao is a deceitful liar full of fear. I can't believe Chief X is live right now with a video titled that way. But it is what it is. I've definitely lost hope with Chief X. I just use him as a teaching moment, punching bag. At this point. So
and I thought Chief X was going to correct himself.
Yeah. See, I'm not doing this for Chief X to correct himself. I learned in my debate days, my official or amateur debate days at college, that you never should walk into a debate with the expectations of convincing your opponent in real time, because then you're just gonna let yourself down. It's really for the onlookers, the audience, the readers, depending on what format the debate is in. And so I don't.
If
You don't
somebody
look.
presented on me like that and showed how much I got wrong, I would correct myself.
You say you
But
were
I
what?
know I'm different. But I mean,
Oh.
if they did that much and showed what I got wrong, I correct myself. Because the way I see it, and then this may be what's different being Chief X, is that you have to be wrong because you're human. And if you get something wrong and you improve, then that means you're smarter.
Yeah. You know what, y'all? I should go to Chief X live while I'm live, and then broadcast me going to his channel. He probably wouldn't even let me on there because I know he used StreamYard. And go over there and ask him to show and prove or just shut it down, man. Because it's impossible for him to say I lied. Like, that's just straight up just clickbait. But anyway, it's late, y'all. We've been on for 3.5 hours. I was trying to make this quick, but we're gonna probably timestamp this video so people will know where they can start watching and where we just shooting it. So I appreciate everybody tuned in, who learned something. If you like I said, our intent on every one of these videos is to really package a to-go box so that people can have a takeaway in some form or fashion, even if you disagree. Now, if you disagree or you feel that I'm in error or any of us are in error with anything, I welcome that. Save the drama, save the immaturity and all the other stuff, that circusy stuff. But if you feel that we've made an error in any shape or form and you have information to correct it, man, I invite that. Let me know and present it. I have no problem with that. But the intent is for people to learn something, walk away with something. If you learn something new, or either you knew it already and you're reminded of it, or it'll spark something where you're going to investigate and research further. Because we all don't know everything. We all don't do the same thing. You may be fascinated about a particular thing and go further than I would because it triggers something, in other people. So that's how I see it. And then let's reconvene. So we're always expanding knowledge. Leave those zombie topics in the past. Let them go. Whether Egypt is gay and whether Egypt is black. I mean, it should be enough that Egypt is in Africa. It always has been. And the material culture just simply speaks for itself. We didn't even have to get that deep. The material culture shows that what became ancient Egypt came from the south. Period. It's like so obvious and apparent. And Egypt is not defined by genetics. There's no genetic marker that caused the classification and categorization of a group of people called the ancient Egyptians. It was culture. Culture is king. That's all we have to remember. Culture is king. And that should be enough. And if it's not enough, then we're doing too much. We're stepping into some other psychological problems, where we have to, counter this inferiority complex that we've been drilled to feel by way of slavery and the aftermath and this, that, and the third. But we got to go another route to fix all that stuff. Therapy, some kind of other therapeutic things, and not try to use information and scholarly route and push back and just commit the same fallacies that we are accusing Europeans of doing. You can't fight fire with fire. You fight fire by throwing water on it or taking away its oxygen. That's the two ways you can fight fire. You don't pour gas on it. So that's what we should be. That's what we should be doing. And anybody that does it, listen. Just in your mind, just go through a Rolodex of the people that talk about certain subjects connected to Egypt, and ask yourself, do they even study Egypt? Do they know even the basics of the language? Have they ever held up a book that they've read and understood, or anything about Egypt? And you'll find that the most loudest people and the people that talk about it the most are people who don't have a passion for it, who don't study it, and will even go out their mouth and say, I don't even care about that stuff. And they'll be very dismissive, and try to microwave everything. And that's a problem. Don't let that represent the scholarship about Egypt. Don't let that taint the view. And that's what I'm afraid of. People, come up with these hoteppers and Egyptomania comments and stuff like that. And it's giving everybody a bad rap. This blanket labeling has to go. And that's what I fear, and that's what's been happening. I've been telling people like Chief X, if you're going to address something, direct it to the people you're addressing. If you have a problem with Mfundishi and what they say, Baba Heru or Anthony Browder or whatever, and you're going to do Facebook posts, they're on Facebook. Tag them in your post. Mention them by name. Don't blanket it all them Egyptomaniacs, people with Egyptian names and this, that, and the third. While he the one that got permanent ink of the god Bess on his shoulder and stuff like that.
But see, that's the point. I mean, it's like, even if he had to address those people, he would not even know how to begin addressing those people, because he's not even qualified to address people who are actually pseudo in the first place. So that's one thing that we just have to make clear, that these conversations that we are getting from these people, who actually on both ends of talking about or over exaggerating about the ancient Egyptians being black, and other people trying to push back against that, all those groups are just really not qualified to actually have a proper conversation about these kind of things. So that's why you will see Chief X speak about things, and then when he talks, he will only the things will be like this picture and that picture and this picture and that picture, and you realize that really that's not really scholarship. So it's like people just playing games, and then the other point that is just that you actually see is that they're addressing people who actually have the people who are up there in age, some seniors, and those people had a way of how they understood ancient Egypt, and that's back on that. And then you have people like Chief X, also who's up in age and is just beginning to try to test these waters of scholarship. So it's like they're just lost causes. And then those are not what we want people to actually think, that these are actually scholarship conversations that are going on. That has to be made very, very distinct.
Yes, indeed. So, hey, I appreciate everybody on the panel. I say everybody like it's 20 people. That's Asar Motep, 42 Tribes, Emiket, and everybody in the chat checking it out. Shout out to Monica Lamb, Donnie Williams, Unc Benu, who put together. Matter of fact, I did see recent advertisement for the tour this year. I believe this year, yes. So definitely check out Unc Benu. Benu in the chat right now, so check him out on Facebook to hook up if you want to take a trip to Egypt and see these Chinese folks for yourself. Go over there and see all these white people in Egypt. You know, there's a video I was going to share. I'll probably do it another time. Clips from it at least, where this scholar has spent a lot of years going into Egypt and looking at the remnants of the ancient Egyptian practices in the life of modern Egyptians today. And what she found is, throughout her presentation and everything, is that the people in South Egypt are more in tune and in line with the practices of ancient Egyptians, although they speak Arabic and everything. You know, so she goes through and documents this. I'm not sure if any of you all are familiar with that, but it's very, very interesting because she shows how the practice is this continuity, even in Arabic, and some spillover among Muslims, but it's not particularly Islamic, but it has some heavy influence in their lives. So it's very interesting. But it's further in the south. It's the further south she goes, the more that this continuity is more and more apparent, and that adds to the conversation about where did Egypt come from? You know, because when something originates from somewhere and then there's problems, you retract to your origin, your place of origin, like how babies do. You know what I'm saying? When you stick your hand out and you think it's some danger, you're gonna pull your hand back in. When a snake does what it does, it coils back. Everybody coils back. We get into that fetal position if we feel like we're in danger or whatever the case is. And so the genesis of Egypt is in that geographical territory called Nubia, but we know that's South Egypt, Northern Sudan. Everything recoils, you know, over time, and so on and so forth. But anyway, with that, I'm gonna say Shem Hotep. And if it wasn't so late, I would do what I just said. See what Chief X got to say directly. You know what I mean? But I don't even think he's live anymore. All right, so I'm gonna say Shem Hotep, but I appreciate everybody tuned in, and we are about to be out. All right, so Shem Hotep, everybody.
Thanks.
All right.
Plato said that when you go to chemist school, you became more alert. You may wake up, your spirit wake up. And you became a more human being. That's your character is built in a school. We must know Netcher. You see, maybe in the future we need to know some heretic too. We need to know Netcher.